Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on December the 13th, 2016. I'm your host, the editing machine extraordinaire, and with me as always, the Chief Cheeky Monkey himself. That's kind of hard to say.
Caffeine Rage. And I'm not a cheeky monkey because I don't listen to the show early. I'm on the show.
You're the Chief Cheeky Monkey, and I'll explain why in a minute. But first, on today's show, we will be reminding you about the VGL Awards coming next week. We'll be discussing the games that we played. Kyle and the Chief Cheeky Monkey had a bit of a special behind-the-scenes segment that they recorded that we'll get to play.
Oh my.
How have we changed in a year of gaming podcasting? We'll have our weekly community quarter and our Steam weekly deals discussion. Rage, how are you this week?
Doing all right. You may want to turn down your microphone just a little bit. I was getting a little bit of distortion in that.
Oh, okay. I'll turn it down just a teeny bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, it's not been a bad week.
Yeah, Skype retook control of my microphone, dear listeners. That is a problem with Skype. It likes to dictate your the call volume, and it ties into Audacity, and it will turn your recording volume up and down. So I had to fix it, but I didn't have any notes on where my settings were after I started using my nice mic. So I still had it turned up a little bit too high.
Yeah, and the thing is that Skype tries to keep it right close to where the volume is at max before you start getting distortion, and yeah, it starts to cause trouble. I'm sure on Skype itself it's not that bad because compression, you don't hear the distortion all that much, but listening for it, you could tell a little bit. And it wasn't that bad for you on the intro, so don't really have to redo it, but it was enough that I was noticing it.
Yeah. I'll fix it in post.
Yeah, but right now we're doing it live.
That's right, we're doing it live. Anyways, I asked you how you were, and you said you were doing okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to... I kind of jump back in there on talking about my stuff.
Yeah, we could jump back in there.
Anything else going on for you this week?
Not really. What?
I don't know. I'm in a weird mood tonight.
Really?
I had a, not like a weird day at the clinic, but it's just like, it's weird being there right now because the place is practically a ghost town. Because, all the students have left and they've got, the interns and the people doing like experiments on campus and the undergrad students who come and then all the students who come to the clinic. They're all gone for Christmas. So it's just a ghost town.
Yeah.
There's me and a couple of other people who have still got a decent client load that are there, but it's really dark and creepy. Like if I wasn't there all the time, I would probably be creeped out. But
a good therapeutic experience, huh? A dark, creepy room with a naked guy.
Wink.
And you just hope that you don't interrupt his Train Fever or EVE Online or whatever the hell he's playing this week.
Yep. And
speaking of which,
that would be a good segue, but we do have to talk about the VGL Awards again.
All right.
This is just a reminder to everybody. The VGL Awards are going to be next week. So from the time this podcast goes up, you'll have what? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days. We'll post some more tweets about it and stuff in the interim to maximize your time. But
I just sent out the tweet a little bit ago.
But please, pretty please with sugar on top. We would love for you guys to go to our Google Forms page and submit your picks for the list so that we can actually have a community segment. We are, as long as everything works out, we're pulling Kyle and Kimmis both in for this. So this will be a 4-person podcast.
Yeah, the first one.
It's going to be a nightmare for me. I've got an easy show to record or to edit this week, and I'll have a difficult one to edit next week. So I guess it kind of balances out.
Yeah, and the thing is, I wasn't intending to give balance to the force, but there you go.
Yep, there we go. So please, go submit your stuff. Remember, you will receive a free game from me.
Yeah, I think that's
until
why
run
we're
out.
having a slight issue with it, is that you curse us with the free game. I don't know what it is about you giving away games, but nobody wants them.
I mean, if you don't want a free game, just don't include your Steam ID or your email address.
Well, good luck with that, because the Steam name is actually a mandatory on the form. That's the only mandatory thing on the form.
Well,
That in a Google login, but to be fair, you don't have to put your real one.
No, you don't have
because
to.
it's just an entry. It's just it's just a text entry, so you can put anyone's name there.
Yeah,
and that would be kind of a funny joke. Put someone's name there, and Jared tries to set up a game, and it's like, who the hell is this?
You could put Mike Pence there.
What are you going to be giving him a copy of FIFA 17?
I'm going to give him the worst game I can find.
Or do you not see that on the potential docket? Russian MPs call for FIFA 17 ban over gay propaganda.
No, I have seen that, and I've heard that talked about this week, but no, I'm going to give Mike Pence the worst game imaginable. I don't know what that is. There's quite a few bad games, but
well,
I would give him something from Digital Suicide, but they're all those games are gone now.
Well, you could always send him the meme of Bad Rats.
Yeah.
But then again, I think everybody owns Bad Rats at this point.
I don't own Bad Rats.
Hang on.
Are you going to give me Bad Rats?
No, I'm not going to waste the money on that.
Okay.
I would send you something better than that. Granted, that's a very low bar to pass, but still.
You're going to be getting something better than that for Christmas. So you're going to get something better than that for Christmas.
Oh, you mean the cookies?
Yeah, we're sending you cookies.
Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out shipping, because I want to send something back. It's just never really shipped anything, so.
And
okay. It's probably going to be past Christmas, because, trying to figure that out at Christmas time.
That's fine.
And also, kind of short notice.
Yeah. That's fine.
But look at it this way. It'll be completely random by then.
Yeah, something just shows up one day. I guess I should give you my address, but I won't do that right now because I don't want to give everyone my address.
Yeah, because I imagine yours would be a street address as well.
Yes, it is.
Well, I will have the return address, so.
Yeah, you can just get my address from there. That works.
So if I suddenly disappeared, the cookies were poisoned, and called the local police. Especially if Kyle starts showing up all of a sudden to replace me.
Do they like to hang out at Frank's or not Frank's? I'll bribe them. Got to shoehorn that joke in there every time we talk about where you're from. Or where you live.
The fact that there's a not Frank's. It's such a crappy name that it goes all the way back to being good. That's the thing.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to say what playlist I'm listening to this week. This week's podcast brought to you by Songs to Raise Your Kid To, presented by Google Play. So far, it's actually a half decent playlist. It's about 50-50 on songs I know and songs I don't.
Well, right now I'm listening to my Jazz Holidays playlist on Pandora.
Well, aren't you fancy?
Well, I usually wait until after my birthday to start listening to Christmas music.
Right. I wait until Katie turns on Christmas music to listen to Christmas music.
Well, if I start listening to it when everybody starts playing it, I think I would just go bonkers because it's like 2 months of Christmas music now.
Yeah.
And nothing against Christmas music in general, but listening to it that much is just maddening. I can't imagine somebody working in retail this time of year.
It sucks. I used to work retail.
I mean, not just the customers, but being forced to listen to the same Christmas music for 2 months.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Typically in these playlists, there, I would say, maybe 30 songs total, just by different artists. Yeah.
Well, at least where I worked at Lowe's, and there was essentially like a Lowe's playlist that they had, and it was maybe 50 or 60 songs. You'd hear the whole playlist 2 or 3 times every shift. And they had one playlist per season, so you'd get about 3 months of one playlist, 3 months of another, 3 months, and then 3 months. And the Christmas one was always the worst.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's some sort of psychological experiment we could derive from this.
Don't work retail unless you have to. Oh wait, that would be that's
the hypothesis. This is something for you to work on, I guess.
You know what else we should work on? Talking about the games we played this week.
Oh.
Gotta bring it back.
Bring it back?
All right. Yeah, back in black.
Well, in politics now, orange is the new black.
Oh, let's not do politics again. That was already 10 minutes before we even started the episode proper.
Franken episode content that will maybe eventually play, because we've been really good lately about getting content out.
Yeah.
Well, we've always been good about getting content out. It's just, getting fresh content out.
Yeah.
Instead of getting the leftovers out and putting them out and reheating them.
I like leftovers.
Yeah, well, I do too, but it also really depends on what it is. I mean, leftover mashed potatoes, not as good.
You've never had my mashed potatoes. They're just as good.
Oh, my. Now, are we still talking about a vegetable here?
Well, speaking of vegetables, we could talk about maize. You see what I did there?
Oh.
See what I did there?
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's not my first thing on the list.
I know, but it was the best pun / segue.
Yeah, but I'm going to completely ignore it. I'm going to pull a play out of your playbook and talk about the new AMD drivers instead.
You do that.
Yeah, the new AMD Relive or Relive. I've heard people say it both ways, actually. But I've heard most Relive drivers. Mostly a new feature in them, essentially adding shadow play to AMD cards. It's been really interesting toying around with it for a couple of days over the weekend. You haven't installed these yet, have you?
No, I intended to, but like I said in pregame, I've been working a lot, getting ready for the in-laws to come over.
Yeah,
they're going to be here tomorrow. Well, on Wednesday for those of you listening.
Yeah, so that would be 2 days ago.
Indeed, they came over 2 days ago.
Monkey.
They came over sometime in the past when you listen to this recording. That covers all future listeners.
Well, unless they are listening from an alternate dimension and your relatives never go there and you go to your relatives instead.
An alternate dimension where the alternating Christmases are alternated.
It's like that one episode of Futurama where all the coin flips are reversed.
Never seen it.
With the gold bender?
Nope. I've seen, I think, the first season of Futurama, and I like it. I just have never watched any farther.
Well, I didn't really watch much of the latest Comedy Central Futurama seasons, but I love the old stuff on Fox.
I have a question. Do we just keep derailing to try and pad it out? I mean, we don't need to. We can move on. That's the thing.
We're not even trying to pad it out. That's the thing. It's just random bullshit naturally. So, okay, AMD Relive drivers. The main thing about this is adding the shadow play, which I did test a little bit. And I'm actually really impressed with them for the most part. I do have a couple of issues. One, a wishlist feature, and one that is actually going to prevent me from using these until they fix it.
Okay.
Okay. My wishlist feature is multiple recording tracks on the audio. Pretty much a requirement for a YouTuber. Or for a YouTuber. A Twitch, it doesn't really matter all that much. Being able to go in and manually change volume on voice track as opposed to the game track. Just a huge game changer there. What is preventing me from using this full time as I'm still going to probably use it as my last resort recording solution if need be. But what's really preventing me is, okay, when you start the recording, all the software solutions, well, most of them, OBS actually doesn't have some sort of overlay that it puts on the game and lets you know you're recording and, depending on the thing, what the frame rate is and that sort of thing. pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, AMD has a timer in the corner that starts counting, which is kind of nice because you could see at a glance how long you've been recording or streaming or whatever, because this also has a streaming solution built into it. The thing that drives me absolutely bonkers, it records that timer.
Oh, that sucks.
Now, thankfully, it's just a little timer in the corner, but it's almost like watching somebody do a video with an unregistered Bandicam and you see that watermark on it.
Yeah.
It drives me absolutely bonkers. I'm usually not OCD about these things. I mean, you're usually the OCD one, and I do little things to annoy you from time to time.
Yeah.
But that annoys me. Just that timer, especially since usually when I record, I let the recording run 5 to 10 seconds before I start talking anyway, just to get a nice background noise level to be able to edit out later.
Yeah.
And since I would be running usually Audacity in the background to do audio recording, which, you cannot turn off the microphone recording either. But I could just set it to my headset mic and disable that. So, that's not really a problem, but it's, an annoyance.
Yeah. Shadowplay had those exact same problems too, except instead of a timer, it had like a little recording dot in the corner, and it would record the dot.
Oh. I mean, I think the timer is actually worse, because the timer wouldn't be correct. And if you do any editing, that makes it even more incorrect.
Yeah.
But that said, performance-wise, it actually does really well. Just right out of the box, I didn't change any of the settings just to see how it did. And I picked a game with a lot of motion. I started recording some Dirt 3. All the dirt clouds on it and, fast motion of the car. It seemed like a good idea to test out the bitrate and how it handled. Didn't have any frame rate hiccups, which I wish I could say for the next two games I'm about to talk about. And it looked absolutely perfect at 1080p recording, which I usually record 720p, mostly just to save file size. Because, 1080p recording, raw recording, takes an absolute ton of drive space.
Yeah.
And usually whenever you record, you want to try to do as raw of a recording as possible. Because, well, for one, it's a better image quality, usually. Less compression. But also the fact that you're not using extra computing power to do the real-time render and offload it. So, the Relive recorder looked really good. It had a small recording size as well. Comparable, I would say, to my DX Tori recording, or actually not even that. It's even smaller than that, if I recall correctly, at 720p. Granted, I didn't do a full half-hour recording session just to compare the two. And I probably should have, but, it's small enough that it wouldn't make that big an impact.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a shot, but it probably will not take over XSplit for me.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be my tertiary recording solution. It's going to be, first there's DX Tori. If that doesn't work, OBS. If OBS doesn't work, then it is Relive. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to shoot it with my cell phone.
That would be preferable to using the Windows Game Recorder in Windows 10.
I don't think I even have that installed, or if I do have it disabled. Is that the Xbox app?
No, it's a separate thing. It's built in, but you can turn it off in the settings. I don't know if you can uninstall it, but you definitely can turn it off. So you've probably turned it off.
Yeah, I turned off a bunch of stuff, and the thing is, first thing I did when I installed Windows 10 was I installed Spybot Beacon and had it just rip a lot of this stuff out of it on the spyware side. Well, I guess technically not spyware because you are agreeing to let them see what you're doing, but it's spyware. They're snooping.
Yeah.
So that's the Relive driver. I am impressed with it. I hope that they continue to develop it. Does Shadowplay still have that issue with the dot?
It did the last time I used it, but it's been some time ago now. Basically, Shadowplay would break. They would break Shadowplay on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's
the only
what I
way
keep
to
hearing
fix
is
it,
that was to
the only way
revert
to
drivers.
fix it, yeah, either revert your drivers, or sometimes you'd have to just uninstall the NVIDIA GeForce experience, which is what ran Shadowplay, along with doing like all of your automatic driver updates and stuff. You'd have to uninstall it and reinstall it.
Hopefully the AMD version of it is going to be more stable, because it would be nice to have that tertiary stable recording solution, even though it would drive me nuts. You know, at that point, I think I would just put something over that recording timer.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be hilarious, like a thumb or something.
You could, what's it called? Letterbox it? Is that right? Where they cut out the part of the frame to hide stuff?
Technically, yeah, I could always... Well, Relive records natively in 1080p, so I could just shrink it down so it's just over 720p, and, do a little trim on the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
But that requires a lot of effort. I could
That's
just drop in an image of a thumb over it instead.
Much less work. That's definitely the way to go.
Or just come up with something funny, or at the very laziest, just drop in my icon diskette, which actually would work. And, a watermark over the watermark.
Yeah.
Watermarks all the way down. But I do hope that they remove that, or make it, if they don't remove it, at least make it a toggle. So, I could choose if I want that timer there or not. Because I imagine for streamers, it's really nice to be able to show how long you've been streaming. And they may incorporate that into their overlay if they're using the Relive driver as their primary streaming software, which not sure why you would unless you're doing very specific testing or trying to show benchmarking or something like that.
I will say that streaming with Shadowplay worked way better than recording did. I don't know why, but I used to do streams pretty regularly with Shadowplay. But once I got XSplit, I quit doing that.
Yeah, well, the thing is with things like XSplit or OBS, you have other things that you could do with it. You could switch scenes and then switch your game without the stream going away.
Yeah.
Which, if you're playing multiple games over the night, or want to have effects where your face cam comes up to full screen or something, that's the way to go. Because Relive does have the ability to support face cams and that sort of thing. But for one, I don't have a webcam, so I can't test that. But it looks like it's a very limited feature.
Yeah,
this looks like the first iteration, though, of something that's going to grow into something that would be a useful tool. It's just not quite there yet for my purposes, but for someone that wants a quick and dirty recorder, and you have AMD video cards already, well, you have a pretty good recording solution right there.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the first actual game that you played this week?
The first the actual game I played was Maze.
The Sentient Corn Simulator.
Well,
not exactly simulator, but...
I'm not sure if I would call it sentient either.
Okay.
Oh, okay. This is an adventure game. It's probably the closest I've felt to playing Portal theme-wise, because it is that mad science feel. Where essentially these two guys run a lab, and they get a very vague memo from the U.S. government saying, do something with corn, and they decide to make corn sentient. And it's essentially a first-person point-and-click adventure, because you have all the weird combinations that you usually have with point-and-click games to begin with. Use bottle of oil on kitchen sink. Use a gloved hand on a sink full of oil to get a ungloved hand. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I really want to like this more than I do. And where it really pisses me off is on the technical side of things. Well, that and a little bit of writing, but I'll get to that. the technical side of things is that the frame rate is fucking unstable. I was sitting there watching my frame rate on a static scene. Yeah, me just standing there, not even moving the mouse. Upwards of 15 to 20 frames per second.
So many frames.
Going from just over 60, dropping down to under 40.
That's pretty rough.
And I'm not sure if it's just my setup, because I do realize that my processor isn't as strong as it needs to be these days. But yeah, this is an Unreal 4 engine game. So, yeah, it's not that processor intensive, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And it was running my RX 480 at full blast. So it was definitely the graphics card. It's just one of those things that I'm not sure if it's just unoptimized, if it just doesn't like my setup, which is very possible because I didn't really see a lot of people complaining about it, or if I was sensitive to it because it was actually starting to give me some simulation sickness. The combination of the highly unstable frame rate, the fact that you have a very exaggerated head bob when you move,
the god-awful motion blur.
Well, I didn't notice the motion blur that much, but it's also a very slow-paced game.
Yeah.
But what really got it for me is a very narrow field of view. I'm estimating somewhere in the ballpark of 70 to 75.
Yeah, it's too low.
Yeah, so I was by the time my recording ended, which did exaggerate things because I was talking the entire time, I was starting to develop that headache right between the eyes, that migraine.
Yeah.
And I wasn't feeling sick just yet, but I wasn't exactly enjoying myself.
Right. Some of the videos that I've seen have highlighted the motion blur in combination with the really small field of view, causing a lot of motion sickness.
Well, I wasn't really looking for motion blur, so I could have just been missing it. Well, the thing is that it was really going to be hard to tell because another technical aspect that I was having trouble with was that there was a very apparent cutoff point of the detail limit. So you'll be walking and you see textures go from low res to high res. You'll see lights turn on and off where the level of detail was had them off on their low setting and then on in their high setting.
Yeah.
And it would change the lighting of the level. All the items that you have to pick up have this white outline. And if you're too far away from them, you can't see that outline. You have to be within, I would say, about 10 feet. And the thing is that there's very few rooms that have a size smaller than 10 feet. So you would see the outlines just pop into existence.
Yeah.
And on the outdoor scenes, when you're walking through the cornfields, you could see the corn just change ever so slightly in the depth of field, and or the level of detail, I should say. And it was really distracting, so much so that I wasn't really looking for motion blur because that was distracting me so much.
Right.
So, yeah, technically, I'm just having so many problems with the game. Oh, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really caught on the technical side of things. Very limited options. You could do custom options, but it was kind of hidden. You had to go all the way through Ultra to get to the custom. There was no drop down. It was just, low, medium, high, Ultra, and then, click past that and you'll get to custom.
Yeah.
And it didn't really tell you what you were adjusting all that much. It was telling you, okay, you're adjusting post effects. Well, what's the post effect exactly? It's felt like a very stripped down Unreal 4 game. Which, after playing The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, you can make a very beautiful Unreal 4 game that runs beautifully. I'm just not sure if like I said, if it's my hardware, if it's just the game is not that optimized and there's not a lot of people playing it that's really noticing these things. Or if... Well, this was also after I updated to the Relive drivers, so maybe something in that broke. I don't know.
Maybe. AMD definitely has more issues with driver updates than NVIDIA does in my
I would
personal
disagree
experience.
with that lately. NVIDIA seems to have a lot more issues with their driver updates and having to do hot fixes to fix their drivers breaking things. But I didn't do a revert to test to see if this if it was the revive drivers, because honestly I couldn't be bothered with Maze. So let's go ahead and talk about writing, because that's the big thing for an adventure game.
Okay.
The only real speaking parts are the sentient corn, which I will say are probably the second to the closest highlight. There is one thing that I enjoy more than that, which I'll get to in a moment. And they're all kind of dumb. They talk about going to have a nap constantly, and make puns and that sort of thing. And
Naps are very valid conversation points, I'll have you know.
That was pretty much their entire characterization of being dumb and standing in the corner and talking about how dark it is, and not realizing that they could just turn around.
Right.
And then there's Vladdy, which you'll see him in the screenshots of the game. He's a Russian knockoff of a teddy bear who you build in the second chapter, who follows you around and helps you out with puzzles. And his big thing is calling literally everything stupid or you an idiot. And if you want to die of alcohol poisoning, take a drink every time Vladdy says the word stupid.
Okay.
It got very, very tiresome very quickly. It's like you take all the humor out of the Russian guy from Armageddon, and that's about Vladdy.
I might actually really like that. I love the idea of this game, but
that's the thing.
I'm not gonna.
I like
play
the idea of it,
and sickness.
I like the idea of it. The technical aspect just kept me from really liking it. Yeah, and it is essentially a first-person point-and-click adventure. So you have that point-and-click adventure mindset going into it, which the game did a good job, unlike last week, of setting me up to what to expect. So, I was expecting to go into essentially first-person point-and-click, and that's what I got. It's just the technical aspects just caused me all sorts of problems. And the reason why this made me feel a lot like Portal in Aperture Science was the Post-it notes everywhere. Instead of the voiceovers, having Gladys and, other characters, I don't want to spoil that for you, because you still haven't played the single-player Portal 2, I'm assuming.
Nope.
You'll see Post-it notes all over the place of the two co-founders, Bob and Ted.
Okay.
And Bob is an egomaniac. He has statues of himself everywhere. He has pictures of himself everywhere. Every time that there's a mention of both co-founders, he always makes sure that he plays up his part. In the first time that you go into the actual facility, in Chapter 2, about, I would say, 30 to 40 minutes into the game, which the beginning of the game is very slow. It has a very slow pace. It does a lot better once you get into the actual facility, but it takes a while. You'll see, I'm pretty sure it's Bob and Ted. Bob's, if it's not, then, I know one is Ted, though, so. Bob's portrait, and he has all his titles, his MDs, his Esquires, and everything. And then you see Ted's portrait, and it's just, Ted's name. And then scratched under it is his actual titles, where I'm assuming Ted actually had to go in and do it. And let's see, there's the famous picture of Napoleon riding a horse. You know what I'm talking about? That famous portrait. Mm-hmm. Okay, only instead of Napoleon, it's Bob's face. And they put Ted as the horse.
Nice.
And all the Post-it notes talk about, Bob wants to essentially make this top secret government facility into a tourist trap. Make it a resort, make it a theme park, make it a hotel. And you see brochures, welcome to Redacted. And, just the black censor bar.
Mm-hmm.
And Ted's post-it notes are always calling Bob some sort of version of idiot or buffoon, which on this I could appreciate. For one, they use different synonyms. It's not stupid, literally every 10 seconds whenever he's reading the post-it notes. And he's pointing out, how foolish it is to think that you could build a hotel out of a top secret facility while it's still operating. And let's see, Bob loves to also build various lobbies. So you'll go down a couple levels and you'll see the same lobby again, which I realize is reusing assets, but at the same time it makes sense in a gameplay or a story perspective,
Yeah.
And it's and you'll see a post-it note from Ted. Another lobby? How much are these things costing us? So story-wise, I really like that aspect of it, and that's why it felt very Aperture Science to me. That crazy CEO that wants to do his own thing, but really can't, and the bickering back and forth between the two. It was just great. And whenever you get to their offices, Bob's is just a complete mess, and Ted is this real neat freak. And he actually blocked off Bob's access to their shared toilet because he was such a mess. So he actually stole Ted's key and copied it, and you just see this path of trash going around through Ted's office and in. And it's like, how did you get a copy of my key anyway? So just this constant bickering back and forth, and you never hear them, or at least the 4 or 5 hours that I played this game, audio-wise. It's all, just interacting with them through just post-it notes and finding brochures and various things that you can pick up to get more lore-wise. So, like I said, I really want to like this game a lot more, but it's all the technical aspects that are just holding me back from really recommending it.
Right.
If maybe you should try it out and see if the motion blur and all the narrow field of view and everything triggers some sort of simulation sickness with you. But I would say that probably on sale because, I was actually probably getting close to the end on my review. It's only a 5 to 6 hour game. With some people are saying that it takes a little bit longer depending on how lucky you are, because there's a couple things like, well, actually in my video, I highlighted one problem with the. You okay over there?
Yeah, I just was adjusting my chair. It's broken, remember?
Right. Your fat ass.
Yeah, my fat ass broke it.
There was in the video I highlighted on accident completely. That one item that you needed to continue on, which you have to get all the items and continue outside of the lore items. But the thing is that the lore items and the progression items have the same outline. So you could be picking up something thinking that it's going to, help you solve this puzzle. And, it's just, a brochure talking about, welcome to Redacted.
Right.
So that could be a little frustrating. But this piece of tape that you need to get a fingerprint to unlock this thing, it was a white outline on a whiteboard. And the tape was cellophane, so you couldn't see the tape.
Right.
So
nice.
Only way to really spot it was that the fact that the white outline went over the edge of the whiteboard just ever so slightly, or if you moused over it and you saw the word tape. And I just completely, by random chance, found it.
Well, that's definitely point and click for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but up until that point, it hadn't really had the pixel hunting aspect. There was only, I would say, one thing that would have been even close to it, but hint-wise, with the items and the logic of it, it made sense. You had a broom, and in one of the silos, there was this pile of grain. So, it makes sense to use broom on grains to find something under the grain.
Right. Cool.
So, I think that's Maze for you. It's, like I said, and it is a very pretty game. For the most part, there are some really gnarly textures on some of the random items around. but I have no idea what was causing the frame rate issues. And the fact that it was so unstable makes me think it's the game and not my system. Because usually whenever, it's a system bottleneck, it's a fairly consistent low frame rate, right?
Yeah. Usually, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that it was such a wide variance, 15 to 20 frames per second on a completely static image.
I would guess poor optimization. Either that or it just really didn't like your system for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing you can do about either of those issues.
Yeah. I mean, it was still mostly playable enough for the video, but, was not. I was not enjoying it on the technical aspect.
Yeah.
So, speaking of games I didn't like on a technical aspect, let's go on to the other game.
Oh, okay.
Assassin's Creed 3. Thank you for ruining it.
Always.
Oh. This game... Okay. I have not played an Assassin's Creed game since Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
And there's no follow-up to that. There's no numbers. There's no subtitles. The last Assassin's Creed game I played was the very first one. And I went into this wondering how long it would take me to get bored. Or, completely lose interest. It was about the end of the opening spiel where they just kept going on and on about the story and never really explaining what the hell was going on.
Are you talking about the very beginning where you're Desmond and you're going down into that cave? Okay.
Well, it wasn't even the cave. It was the opening cutscene, and they were talking about the Templars and whoever else. And it was just, okay, I have no idea who the fuck these guys are. I barely know who they are. By osmosis of, reading about video games. But you're not explaining anything. So, someone coming into Assassin's Creed 3 that doesn't know the story, which, it turns out that, it doesn't really fucking matter, because didn't Ubisoft announce that they were cutting the Animus storyline out of the next Assassin's Creed anyway? Or there wasn't going to be a conclusion to it now? I remember reading something about that.
I don't remember that, but it wouldn't surprise me. Nobody really likes the non... Like, except for in Assassin's Creed 4, where Black Flag, where they used it as like a joke. Nobody really likes the Animus stuff.
Yeah, and they laid it on rather thick on the opening cutscene, just going on and on and on. It was sort of like you with the Divinity Original Sin, where we hit the really talky pick.
Yeah.
Only difference was that I had no idea what the fuck was going on. And honestly, really couldn't care. That's the thing. Okay, so finally get into the actual gameplay cutscene. And I start to notice, my frame rate's a little low. Not a good sign. Now, mind you, I'm running a FX 8350 with a RX 480. I realize processor needs to be upgraded, but not a lot I could do without going to water cooling, because the next step up on the FX chips pretty much requires water cooling. Because they turn to space heaters.
Okay.
So, pretty much all I could do outside of just swapping out motherboards. So, I was getting 50-ish FPS. Not bad, but a little bit of fluctuation. Then I get to Boston. Oh, Boston. I was getting 20 to 30 FPS in Boston.
That's rough.
Yeah. And the thing is that I did some searching online. It's just the game is terrible with AMD hardware. And there are some fixes, but the thing is that I was not enjoying the game up until this point already. The ship crossing was to be a very boring sequence.
I could definitely understand that, but I had a lot of fun playing like weird games with sailors.
Yeah, well, and then did you play any of the board games?
Yes, I did.
But yeah, it was a very boring sequence, and I started noticing all the little glitches, which I guess story-wise you could kind of paint away as saying, well, the Animus, it's a glitchy piece of shit. The opening sequence in Boston, you have a thief that grabs a tomato or apple or something from a basket and runs away. Well, at one point he drops it and it just floats in the air.
Okay.
I saw people bumping into invisible walls, cloths on a cloth on some people, their clothes suddenly goes rigid for a moment and then just kind of wigs out as a havoc bomb almost. Just the physics just doesn't work right.
Yeah.
Shadows were a little flickery, which typically indicates a problem with the interfacing with the AMD hardware, because that's usually the sign that this game wasn't really meant with AMD in mind. Yeah, whenever you see just the shadows just kind of flickering.
Yeah.
And then the atrocious frame rate that there was some fixes online, but a lot of them were talking about getting just past 30 in Boston, which is still on the borderline of playable, especially for an action game like this.
Yeah.
And the thing is that once you left Boston and went to somewhere else, the Opera House was all right. It was a little low for my taste, but it was playable. The ship was perfectly fine. I suffered through Boston for a little bit to get to the first main mission there, which I guess they assume that you're coming from the earlier Assassin's Creed games, because they don't really go into what the hell is going on.
I've played the Assassin's Creed 1 and then 2, the series that was Assassin's Creed 2, because there were 3 of those.
Yeah.
The Ezio trilogy. I've played 3 and I've played Black Flag, and it doesn't help in 3. They go off the rails for a while. A lot of stuff didn't make sense to me.
Okay, so I stand corrected there. But yeah, it's just, I had no idea what the hell was going on, and I was having technical issues on top of things. And it was just, I couldn't be, it was going to take me longer to try to fix them to make the game even semi-playable than I was willing to even put into it, because I wasn't enjoying myself. But the thing is that it was a free game, so there you go.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, and this is not about Assassin's Creed 3, so if you have,
so it's probably going to be my system suddenly having issues with 2 games in one week.
I want to ask you a question about your processor.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here looking at this. It's an 8-core, 4 gigahertz processor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's running AMD's.
Yeah.
Is it running Bulldozer, or what's the other one? Pile Driver?
I'm pretty sure it's a Bulldozer driver.
Okay, so I know Bulldozer has got some inefficiencies, but I mean, still 8 cores, 4 gigahertz. How does your processor struggle, man? Your processor should, at least on paper, be
the thing is
roughly twice as powerful as mine. Because I've got an i5.
It's just the way how they do things, because it's weaker on a single core, but it's stronger whenever it's multi-core.
Right. I guess that makes sense, because most games, even nowadays, don't properly use 4 cores. So,
yeah, see, AMD was really banking on more multi-threaded games.
And that is just now starting to catch on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
okay, that makes sense.
I'd be able to play things like Kerbal a lot better than you, because I would be able to throw more cores at it. Even though it's technically a quad core with 8 logical cores.
Right. Well, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because the i-series has got really strong single-core performance, which is what matters the most in games from, well, now all the way back. So,
but the thing is that it shouldn't be struggling this much on a game like Assassin's Creed. It's just inefficiencies and not building for it, and it's more the graphics card in this case. I think.
Right.
Because it was just them talking about AMD graphics cards having trouble with how they built Assassin's Creed, not processors.
Okay. Yeah, because AMD and NVIDIA use drastically different architectures for their graphics cards as well.
Yeah.
which is why AMD, once DirectX 12 came out, and Vulkan, which really utilizes more what is it? Multi asynchronous compute.
I think so.
Better utilizes asynchronous compute, which the AMD architecture better supports. That's why AMD cards right now are killing NVIDIA cards in DirectX 12 games.
Yeah, just wait till the RX 490 comes out. Whew.
Yeah. I can wait because I can't afford one, but...
well, the 480s are already kicking ass.
Yeah, the 480 is still the best.
Driver, the relap driver actually gave another, I want to say, 8 or 9% performance on games like Shadow of Mordor. Picked up a lot of frames per second.
Dang. Yeah, I need to get those drivers in.
Continue talking. I'm going to look this up.
Okay. I don't know what I can continue to talk about because I kind of made my point. I guess I can just vamp. Leave it in.
You going completely off topic? Nah. Let's see. I'm trying to find the exact frame rates here because, it was rather impressive. I haven't done actual testing. I have Shadow of Mordor installed, which may be my next game once I'm done with Space Marine. I'm kind of torn between that, another game, or may just be doing something completely different as well. Because who knows, right?
Yeah. Shadow of Mordor is great. I played it on Xbox One, but still, they did a good job optimizing that for a console, so it was very playable.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to play it with a gamepad or with a mouse and keyboard. I'm a little torn on that. Mostly because it will have archery segments, and I typically like to do range combat with mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm still trying to find this.
Well, while you look, I was going to say the RX 480 because we were talking about the different kind of power levels of graphics cards. The RX 480 is still the best performance per dollar.
I've actually heard people say that
right
the 470 is beats it barely.
Well, it depends. If you can, maybe it's been long enough where you could actually buy a 470 at the correct market value, but they still had inflated prices and were only like $10 or $20 cheaper than the 480s, and the 480 had markedly higher performance values. But if prices have finally settled into the actual retail price,
there's been actually really good deals on the 480 in the last few weeks.
I suppose it really depends on what type of gaming you want to do. If you really just want to focus on 1080p gaming, then probably the 470 is good enough. But if you want to do 1440p, kind of lower quality VR or future proofing, I'd say go for the 480.
Yeah. Let's see. They are claiming a 7% performance increase in Shadow of Mordor, 7% in Batman Arkham Knight, 4% in Deus Ex Mankind Divided, 6% in Overwatch, and an 8% increase in Ashes of the Singularity. And those are just games that they pulled out. And the thing is that I was getting a 90 FPS on ultra settings in Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, Shadow of Mordor was really well optimized, though.
Yeah.
They did a good job on that PC port.
Yeah, so I'm probably looking at, I would say, 5 or 6 FPS increase.
Yeah. Which is always nice to have. More FPS is better.
Doing the benchmark, going through town, I'm still above 60, but once I'm outside of the town on the benchmark, I jump immediately to 90 to 100. So it's, but still, even 60 FPS in the very, very dense area of the benchmark, which they make it so that is like nightmare scenario. That tells you, my computer isn't a slouch. It's just I'm running into really unoptimized games right now.
Yeah, before the main problem you had was you had a really, not a crappy, almost a crappy, but that's not true. It just was old.
Yeah,
get an old graphics card.
Yeah, the 7800 series actually is still fairly decent if you start cranking it up and doing overclocking with it, which I wasn't as much as I could have. But I pretty much doubled my graphics card without doubling my processor, so I'm bumping into processor problems now more often than anything else. Or just, I know that it's not my computer now, and I'm running into unoptimized games. Because that's the other problem. It's just running into problems with Maze. And before, I would just write it off as, okay, it's just my graphics card. Now, I know better because my graphics card is in, I would say, the top 15 that you could get right now, power-wise.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Might even be top 10.
It really depends on how you stack things up, because it's the top of the line for AMD right now.
Yeah, it is the top for AMD.
Until the 490 comes out early next year.
Yeah.
So it's not a power issue there.
By the way, everybody, welcome to the PC hardware portion of the podcast. Right in the middle of our games discussion.
Well, look at it this way. They could always skip immediately to your games.
I suppose. I like to talk shop. I've got plenty of people in my life who can talk to me about video games, but very few people who can talk to me about hardware. Oh, there's my kit.
Well, there wasn't a spring.
Well, I actually hit the mic instead of the spring. Do you want a spring? I can flick the spring if you want.
Oh, my.
There you go.
El Kabong.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I don't know my stuff as well as I should if I wanted to do like a hardware section of the podcast, but I know enough.
Yeah.
And I built my computer and upgraded it, so I know enough to be able to take it apart and put it back together.
Yeah. Did I? I don't know if I've told you this.
Oh, no,
I built my father-in-law's Christmas present, which was a new PC. It was originally, it is still intended to be a media center PC, but I was talking to him the other day about what kind of computers he has in his house, because he's an IT guy, so he builds all kinds of computers and runs a little server farm and stuff, and he's walking me through, and I realized that this PC I'm building him is now going to be the most powerful PC in his house
because he hasn't upgraded.
Because he hasn't upgraded in forever.
Well, if you're not a gamer, you don't really need to upgrade your computers all that often.
No, that's true. Every time he needs new storage, he'll just grab some hard drives that they're not using at his job, and he'll bring them home and pop open one of his PCs and jerry-rig it together. And then there you go. There's more space on his home server. So,
yeah, hard drive standards haven't really changed all that much. It's just storage.
Yeah.
They haven't changed in, I would say a decade, really.
Yeah. He's getting that PC bug or that PC gaming itch, though. He used to play PC games a lot, but, kids and life and work and stuff got in the way, and it was not really it wasn't as big to him as it is to us.
Yeah.
But he's getting back into it now that all the kids are gone from the house, so he might actually use this as a gaming PC.
Ah.
I don't know. We'll see. The hard drive's kind of rough in it. I went for storage capacity and low speed because it was just supposed to be a media PC. Yeah. So it's only got a 5,400 RPM hard drive in it.
Yeah,
which is rough for gaming.
Yeah, for video, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, my upgrades right now, I'm looking at second monitor, probably January to February. And then it's going to be upgrading my data drive. That's the next thing. My data drive is absolutely ancient and it needs to be upgraded, but it's going to be monitor first because monitor gives me some more options and also makes editing a lot easier.
Yeah. Over my Christmas while the clinic's closed, I'm going to finally pull that SSD out of that PC I've got and put it in mine and reinstall Windows. I need to buy a hard drive, though, for the other PC because I intend on turning it into a server machine.
Yeah, you've seen how fast I reboot.
Yeah. I've used SSDs before, but I didn't put one in this machine because when I built it, they hadn't quite hit that tipping point where you could get a decent-sized one at a reasonable price. You could buy a 120 gigabyte one or whatever, not too bad, but I want at least double that, 256. I'd like 512,
Yeah, see, my SSD is still fairly tiny. It's 110 gig, after formatting and everything,
Yeah.
which is enough for Windows and a couple games.
Yeah, well, the one that I've got in that PC in there that I'm going to take is 256 gigabytes. So, I mean, I didn't have to buy it either, so that's nice.
Yeah, my overall plan is second monitor, upgrade my data drive, and then I'm probably looking at. I'm going to watch the price of SSDs, and if they come down again, or come down further, I'm probably looking at getting a large SSD for a few games. And that's going to be like my last drive I could get without getting an expansion card, because I'll be using all my channels on my motherboard, unless I just rip out the CD drive, which is always a possibility. But I do like having the option of backing up.
Yeah.
Or the other option is I've toyed around the idea of building a render machine and using my last channel for a hot swappable hard drive.
Ooh, fancy.
Which actually, that bay is not that expensive.
Having a render machine is nice. I mean, even though my second machine that I use for a render machine is not very powerful, it doesn't matter. It's like, I do all of my editing on my main rig, and then I just I've got I've got several network drives that can be accessed, and I just get everything from there and put it.
Well, the other possibility is, instead of a render machine, depending on how things turn out processor-wise in the next couple years, get a motherboard and processor, and by then just rip the guts out of my computer, swap over the recorder drive, the upgraded data drive, put the old data drive back into this, and use my current computer essentially as the render machine.
Yeah, 8 cores would definitely be helpful for rendering.
Yeah, granted, it doesn't use my graphics card all that well. So I'm still looking at when I do the video render of the podcast, I'm looking at just right at an hour.
How big are your output file sizes?
Remember, I do a 2-pass, so I could actually tell you that. I could go into my recorder drive right now and look. Let's see, my rendered videos done. VGL EP 46 is 11.5 gigs.
Holy shit!
That's the first pass.
Yeah, and then you run them through Handbrake,
which honestly it doesn't take that long. Let's see, EP46 drops down to 627 megs.
See, my first output files, I've switched over to using images exclusively just because of file size and speed.
The one I created then.
I mean, I can use that one. I've just been using our logo, the white logo.
Well, I think mine looks better than putting that on. I mean, you've seen exactly what I use.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got that when you sent it to me. But anyways, I mean, my output file sizes are only like 200 megabytes. And then
remember, I have everything set for gaming bit rates. And I don't have a secondary set of parameters set up for the static images. So everything still has the bitrate turned way higher than it needs to be for these.
Yeah, my bitrate's really low.
Yeah, that's the difference.
It's just enough so that it doesn't look like a single image refreshing over and over again.
Yeah, let's see. How about... here's one that we could compare. Divinity Original Sin Co-op EP5.
Okay, hang on. Let me pull that up.
I'm sure this is really engrossing, or this is going to end up being a lot of freaking episode content.
Nah, I'll leave it. Maybe. I guess it depends on how long it is.
Well, we're over the hour mark already.
Yeah, I know. So much for going to bed early. Come on.
I should have known better doing some editing for you. It just makes things even worse.
Oh, God, my dog just farted. It smells so bad. I'm going to have to take a break soon and go put her outside.
And vomit.
Wait a second. That's the wrong folder.
Well, really, any of the Divinity Original Sin, but the...
All right, you said episode 5.
Yeah, EP5 is just the last one that I rendered.
2.96 gigabytes. That's before I run it through Handbrake.
Okay, before running through Handbrake, 6.42.
And I've already ran this one through Handbrake. I'm all the way up through episode 6.
Yeah. And my finished is 2.14.
My finished is 371 megabytes.
And this is also at 720p.
Mine are at 720p as well.
So, yeah, that gives you an idea of just how high I have my bit rates.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds like the dog's agreeing with me, though.
Yeah, that's one of the outside dogs. Sounds like Robin.
But, yeah, well, at least it keeps all the blockies away out of my videos, right?
Yeah. My videos aren't, like, terrible, like, unwatchable, but sometimes they do look a little bit grainy when the lighting is just right or on certain game objects.
Yeah, but then you go look at my videos and you see the difference in frame rate. And
yeah.
There's not a lot of... Well, it does increase my render times a bit, but at the same time, I'm trying to go for quality.
Yeah.
So are we going to actually get back on track now?
Yeah, speaking of Divinity, I'll just make that the first game on my list. I'll rearrange them. I've been playing Divinity, Original Sin, Enhanced Edition, this week.
On single player.
Yeah, on single player. I started another new game because I'm basically like experimenting still, like figuring out stuff. One, to kind of help us along. Not in terms of like story. I'm still not progressing past where we are. But just like I'm really trying to learn the crafting system because there's a lot of really useful stuff. Like I looked up a crafting table. And the guy was like, yeah, this isn't everything. I know for sure because I've still got things that I can't seem to get because my skill's not high enough, or like I haven't tried combining all the items because like some of these items are more rare or whatever. But I just like kind of took a glance at it to try and figure out the logic of their crafting system. And actually most of it really makes sense. It's like combine needle and thread to get a sewing kit that you can use. Yeah. Or, combine some wool, like combine like 2 different kinds of thread and you can get string, and combine 2 kinds of string and you can get bowstring and stuff like that. So it all really makes sense. And I basically, I got to level 5.
Yeah, which you could actually use the bowstring to essentially sharpen bows, increase their damage.
It increases their damage. But I got to all my characters to level 5, just like going and fighting stuff. And taking the things that they drop, because obviously there's only certain drops you can get from monsters and animals, and looting the town. And I imagine you did a more
thorough looting of the town than we did in the series, because that you'd spend a lot of time doing that. Yeah, particularly if you did the tactic that I did on the video, and use one character to kind of distract someone.
Yeah, I've been doing that too. I took what you were doing and I've been doing that so that I can break into or sneak into areas and loot more stuff. And I don't know if they're like secret areas, but they're definitely more difficult to get to than just like opening a door and walking in. Yeah. But I found some areas that have, lots of loot in them, like a bunch of chests or things like that. Oh, excuse me. Missed the cough button on that one. I apologize, Rage.
Ow.
Anyways, so I've just been looting and crafting. I discovered more kinds of food that you can make. So.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time on building that crafting system.
That crafting system is amazing. It's like, a lot of crafting systems are like, okay, just take these 2 things and make this thing. Or, maybe these 3 or 4 things, whatever. But in Divinity, it's like, okay, you craft this thing, and then you craft another thing. And then you craft
production chains.
Yeah, and then you craft those 2 things together.
And they all make sense. Else.
Yeah, and all of them make sense.
Okay, so, maybe sometimes, use hammer on tomato to get tomato sauce.
Well, that's a cheeky joke. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, well, they are very humorous. That's one thing that I really like about Divinity is that they aren't afraid of humor. They don't use it, they don't overuse it, but it's the spice.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm probably going to get lynched for this, but that I kind of find with some sections of the Lord of the Rings movies where they feel so dry.
Yeah,
and it just is a chore to get through just because of how overly serious they are.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense. It's even worse in the books. I mean, I love the Lord of the Rings books, don't get me wrong, but there are portions that are really hard to get through.
Yeah, I've read the books, and yeah, they can be very dry. Especially once you get used to some of the more humorous characters, and then they go off and on their own.
And are gone for like 9 chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you want to use the Wheel of Time, they're gone for 5 or 6 novels. I'm not joking on that. The Wheel of Time is, I believe, 14 novels total.
Yeah, I've seen the Wheel of Time. It's on my list of things to read before I die.
Well, I did the audio version. And that's like a week, if I recall correctly.
Is it as bad as Game of Thrones?
In what sense?
And how long it takes to go through the audio?
Well,
like the Game of Thrones audiobooks, their average playtime is 35 hours a book.
Let's see. Wheel of Time is how many let's go audiobook length, because I want to see the actual. Okay, it is 17 days, 11 hours, and 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah, that's longer.
But also, the Wheel of Time is complete, and Game of Thrones isn't.
That's true. It may never be complete at George R. R. Martin's writing speed. By the way, welcome to the novelization portion of the podcast.
Well, the thing is for the Wheel of Time is that they go really into detail in a lot of world building, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't, and it kind of lulls in the middle just because of that.
Yeah.
So there will be novels in the Wheel of Time that you'll go through, and you could have summarized them in a chapter.
Right. Speaking of, though, of like weird humor, back to Divinity, I did discover a quest that I don't think we've discovered, or maybe we've discovered it, but we haven't done it. Mm-hmm. And I accidentally did it.
Oh, really?
It's so weird how that can happen sometimes. But it's I don't know if you've done it before, but it's the old man, the old elvish man who wants to kill the orc librarian.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, there's multiple ways that you can complete this quest.
Yeah, that's the thing about Divinity, is that a lot of the quests have multiple paths.
But I accidentally triggered combat with him. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess that this means that I'll be protecting her, because I don't want to kill her. I like her. Yeah. Not only is she a neat character, she's also incredibly hot. But anyway.
You just like that tail.
Yeah, I do. Wink. But so I wound up accidentally killing this guy, but because we were in a public place when it happened, some nearby civilians joined combat on his side. Yeah. So I had to kill them too. I guess I could have fled combat now that I think about it, but I killed him for the experience. And afterwards, like, the two characters had a little dialogue, and they were like, "Whoops, probably shouldn't have killed those civilians there. That was a bad thing, don't you think?" And I agreed, and I was like, yes, that's a terrible thing to have done. We should be more careful with our weapons. And after I killed technically 3 civilians, because only a couple of people knew that this guy was a bad guy. Yeah. I got, what was it? What's the one that's opposite of Ruthless?
I can't recall offhand.
But I think it's Compassionate.
Yeah.
I got Compassionate points for murdering 3 civilians in cold blood. I had a good chuckle at that.
I take it you really enjoyed me suggesting this game.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I love crafting systems, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you would go overboard on the crafting. I was hoping that the world building would be enough in the combat.
I mean, the world building and the combat are both great, but it's got a really in-depth, intuitive crafting system. So, I'll have some new things for us when we start playing, because I figured out how to craft resurrection scrolls.
Ah. That's why I was a little concerned about that one fight, using some, because, those could be rather expensive to get.
Yeah. It's not a 100% chance to craft one, but so far, I can't find any, tables for how often you actually get one, but so far my crafting rate for resurrection scrolls is about 60%.
All right.
So, those are pretty good odds.
Is it just a failure otherwise, or does it make something else?
No, it makes something else. It makes a different kind of scroll. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to looting everything that's not nailed down some more.
And avoiding the talkie bits.
I like the talkie bits, but they can take a long time if you don't skip ahead. Like, so so I blew through that main story quest just to get the experience from it so I could level up to go fight the zombies. Mm-hmm. And it took us nearly an entire episode to record that. It took me like 5 minutes to just like press skip. Yeah,
but to be fair, that's comparing skip to go through all the dialogue options.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not really a fair comparison.
No, but just like
even if you were just reading, you would probably cut half the time off.
Probably. I read. Most people I think can read faster than they talk. So
yeah, especially whenever they have the long dramatic pauses.
Yeah. But I played some Divinity by myself this week. Just learning. Fun game, good time. I'm going to rearrange these again because I'm going to save my Eve story for last. So we played the Star Wars RPG this week, you and I and Katie. Mm-hmm. And I put that on my list. It's not a video game version. We didn't play it on tabletop. I actually bought the guide because I know that my in-laws will love this. Or not the guide, but the core rulebook. And you and Katie and I played, and I ran my first GM in Star Wars RPG, and I was, getting the mechanics down and getting more used to the story-driven elements. Because I think I've said this a couple of times. Was a dungeon master for D&D back in the day.
Oh my!
But D&D is a lot more technical. There's still a huge storytelling portion to it, but you have to actually like measure distances for your moves and.
Yeah, it's more. Star Wars is more about the story.
Yeah, Star Wars is more about the story and kind of just having a fun experience with your friends. And D&D is much more technical. There's a lot more rules that you have to follow more closely. Because even in the Star Wars core rulebook, like you get to the end of the rules for being a GM, and there's a note, and it's like, yeah, basically you can throw any of these out that you want to. Just make sure you have fun. I'm paraphrasing that a little bit, but I was like, yeah, I can do that. Because our story went completely off the rails. We were off the rails when you jumped in because Katie broke
you found me locked, and you also found me locked in a closet.
Yeah, but Katie broke 2 encounters before you even joined, and then you guys broke a whole bunch of encounters because you got some really good rolls when I let you try different story things, and it's like, well, that completely undoes this aspect of the story.
Hey, I was proud of the thermal detonator thing.
That was really good. That was good. I like that. And I'm great at creating story content on the fly. I made a couple of small mistakes and got hung up once or twice because you guys went so far off of what I was going to do. I had to think about it for a minute, but almost everything that happened, I just made up as we went along and just kept driving you towards the main end goal of the scenario.
Yeah, sometimes you're a little obvious on that, though.
Driving you towards the goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll get better with practice. But we had fun.
But the thermal detonator thing was that my character threw the detonator and I failed the damage check, I believe it was, or I had a threat on it, so my character forgot to press the button.
Yeah, I think you failed the check and had a threat. So I had you throw the grenade, but you forgot to arm it, so it landed at their feet. Yeah, and then that turned into a whole thing.
Yeah, and then they eventually found the grenade, picked it up, and when they tried to use it, they failed as well, so they activated it and dropped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, a very Three Stooges-esque situation.
Yeah. Some of my forceful driving, though, was because I was like, okay, we have to finish this. We have to finish. I have to drive you towards the end. It's good, though. It's good.
You mentioned we were doing that on tabletop with how much slower it is?
Yeah. Well, a problem with tabletop is that people, and I'm including myself in that, most of us actually are destructive to the flow of the game because we can all pick up the pieces and move them around and draw on stuff, and Kyle with his weird whatevers, which are fun but take a while to figure out.
Plus, and he also just starts drawing dicks.
I thought that was Mel's.
It's both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they sword fight over there. One of them has to assert dominance, and they just keep debating on who that is. So out comes the dicks.
Yep. Gotta have their dick measuring contest. I'm already planning our next story, Encounter, because now you guys have got a ship, which is good. Need one of those. And then
along with our lovely companion, Decoy.
Decoy, yeah. Yeah, you guys hacked a battle droid. And he survived the encounter, so I just decided to let you have him. Because he'll be a nice, little addition to the party. And until, or if we get more people playing. But still, it's just the two of you.
Whoever randomly joins gets to play Decoy.
Decoy's a good little robot.
Yeah, we're going to have to spend a lot of time customizing him.
Yeah, I'm going to make him an actual little custom character sheet and figure out what his stats are. And
I think if he ever dies, we should spend money to rebuild him.
Yeah, I'm going to give him some upgrades myself to his stats, moving him from a minion to a rival class character. And then I'm going to let you guys do some customizing to him as well. But I need to kind of balance him so that he's not too weak or too powerful. And then you guys have got to level up too. But
yeah,
we're going to do that later. We didn't have time because you and I had to go record. And I needed a shower. That's what I did during my break, was have a shower and a snack.
What, we made you feel dirty for keeping Decoy?
Nah. But yeah, I'm pumped. I really hope my in-laws like it, because that would be more times that we could play. Good game. Good game. Recommend it. And the final game I played this week, I posted a tweet that said, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." I'm playing EVE Online again.
Yeah, you've been a naughty, naughty boy.
Yes, I have. So the YouTube video is already on my YouTube channel if you want to go watch it.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like 25 minutes or something like that, and it's a lot more detailed. But I go through kind of spells where I play EVE. I'll play EVE a lot for a few months, and then I'll drop it for a few months. And so I'm back on I want to play this for a few months. And I've been thinking about playing it, and this past week's co-optional podcast, they had a person who streamed EVE Online.
Uh-oh.
And so they spent like an hour to an hour and a half of the podcast talking about EVE Online. I was like, okay, this is it. I can't resist anymore. I got to play.
So in other words, I could skip most of the co-optional podcast. Got it.
Yeah. But so I wanted to play. I wanted to leave my corp. I want to start a VGL corp just because. I mean, there are a few people in our audience that have played EVE before. So if they want to join the corporation and we can fly spaceships together and do stupid stuff and
technically
mine
I could
space
join
rocks.
And just do a free character. It's just that seems dangerous to me.
If you do that, play Galente, because that's where we are in Galente space. And I know
isn't tight.
Yeah, I know that doesn't really mean much to you, but just do that. But anyways, so I wanted to play. Decided I was going to leave the corp, and then I thought, I wonder, because I haven't played in months. I didn't know if they had removed my my roles or anything like that. And I was like, I wonder.
Yeah, because you were pretty high up in your corp when you left, weren't you?
Yeah, I was second in command. So I logged in, and I logged in at the perfect time to do this. There was literally nobody from my corporation or my alliance online.
Yeah, put a cut in here.
Okay.
I hear the train.
Ah. So you ready to get back to it?
I think so. I interrupted you just as you were starting to talk about you being second command when you left.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I was one of the two people who were second in command of my corp when I left. So I didn't know if they were, if they'd removed any of my privileges or anything, or if they just left it. Because I told them multiple times that I'm going to come back. I've just been taking a break. I'm going to come back. That sort of thing.
Yeah, in 6 months.
So, anyways, I logged back in, and I logged in at the perfect time. None of my court mates were online, and none of my alliance was online. So I was on by myself. And I was like, huh.
So this is where you've been a naughty boy.
So I looked, and they had removed some of my privileges, but not all of them. Like, I was still had access to every single corporation base and every single, like, everything that the corp had physically. And then I only had access to 3 accounts. The thing that they removed was my access to the master account, which is really sad because there was a lot of money in there, but we'll get to that. So my thought was, well, you know what? I'm going to leave this corp.
I'm going to teach them a lesson in the process.
I'm kind of an asshole. I'm just going to take all their stuff.
Should I be worried that you actually have control of the VGL finances?
Nah. That's real money. This is fake video game money. Big difference. But anyways.
I'm a little concerned about those cookies, you know.
You're going to get an empty box with a note that says, I ate all your cookies, bitch.
No, you just kill me off and then take all the money.
But, so I stole everything from one location before I got the idea that I should record it. So then I recorded myself doing the rest. And I just went to all of the different locations and stole everything. And then I opened up the accounts tab and stole everything I could get my hands on. And that was when I discovered I didn't have access to the master financial tab anymore. Like, I could see it and I could view transactions, but I couldn't actually take money from it or put money into it. And it was like 1.4 or 1.5 billion in the master account.
I take it that's a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it's not like tons of money. But, you know, for a solo player, that's a pretty good chunk of change. That'll buy you just about anything you can fly by yourself. Or anything that you should fly by yourself.
Okay, and here's the question. In game time, how many plexes can that buy?
A little over 1. So it's worth 30 days of game time. Or, how many dollars is that? I think that's like $10.
All right.
So, but I couldn't get that straight plex, or couldn't get that straight ISK out of the master account. But overall, I stole about 1.8 billion worth of goods and then straight up credits or ISK that I could get from the accounts. And once I take a crack at learning the new changes to the economy system and manufacturing system and stuff like that, I might actually be able to turn that into more with manufacturing, but I know that they made some pretty decent changes to it, so I don't know how viable I'll be at my current skill level. I mean, I was decently skilled, but I mean, I still had a good 2 or 3 months worth of skill training to max out all of my industrial stuff. So that would have made a pretty big difference. But we'll see. So yeah, that's what I did that was naughty. I took everything.
That coal train that passed me, I guess it's on its way to you.
I took everything. I left the corp on both of my accounts, and then I logged out.
Now here's a question: Is there any way, if you were advanced enough, that you could erase logs that you removed stuff?
No.
That would be hilarious if you had like a hacking skill that you could. At least scramble the transactions.
Yeah, that's not a thing unless it's something that they've added. But I haven't seen anything posted anywhere.
I was just asking about it more than anything else. If that's a possibility,
that would be pretty cool. I mean, corporate espionage is a very viable way to play the game and earn a living, so to speak, in the game.
Until you become infamous.
Yeah.
And then you just swap accounts.
Yeah.
Or the real thing is that you never do it with your main account. It's always a secondary account. Yeah.
Well, I've got 5 accounts currently that I could reactivate because, you know, free to play. But I'm not going to take it that far yet. anyways, so yeah, I logged out, and my plan is to not play for a couple of weeks, let the heat kind of blow over for a little bit, and then actually log back in, take some time to really categorize everything, because I just made like some quick and dirty estimates.
Oh my.
About how
quick
much...
and dirty while being naughty.
Yeah. But, just so that I could kind of have a rough idea of what I got. But I really need to go through and sort through everything and transport it all to the same place so it's easy to sort through. So I've got some work to do. And then I plan on setting up, like I said, a VGL corp in the game. So,
and then stealing everything.
I mean, it'll be my own corporation, so I guess I'll steal it all from myself. But,
well, this does explain what you were talking about, cleaning your Skype.
Yeah, I went through. I had several corp contacts in my Skype that we would occasionally chat, and I removed all of them before we started recording, because I don't want to talk to them. They're gonna say bad things to me, and I mean rightfully so. They absolutely have every right to be pissed. I did a really shitty thing, but
jerk ass.
It's EVE Online, baby.
Wait, didn't you just send a couple of them the podcast? Am I going to get correspondence from these guys?
Maybe. I know one of them did listen at one point, but I don't know if he still does.
Well, there goes a listener.
Probably. That's all right. I did take some time, though, to notice the new stuff from the most recent updates. Because there's been one major update since I quit playing, and then a couple of minor updates. They've done a lot to fix up the look of the game. I mean, EVE Online was still a very pretty game whenever you turned up the graphics. I mean, it'll run on a potato still, but I mean, it can be a very gorgeous game. But
I didn't know it was on consoles.
Well, real potatoes, not those imitation potatoes.
Oh, not the instant potatoes. You just plug and play.
Right.
Well, you plug it in, wait for all the updates to download,
and then play.
And then you get to play the games that they allow you to play.
But anyways, the game has had a noticeable visual improvement. And I was playing with it on Ultra before. I mean, it was a very well optimized game. My 750 Ti could run it no problem. And the 480 doesn't even break a sweat. On my little CPU and GPU counters that I have in XSplit that I can see what their performance is at, make tweaks to improve recording and streaming performance, it doesn't even hit 20% usage on either of them.
Damn.
So EVE is very well optimized, and it looks gorgeous. They've added some new solar system effects, new lighting and shaders. They've added better ringed planets. They look a lot more realistic. They've done a lot with the camera. Normally, whenever you use the phrase cinematic camera in a video game, it means bad. But with EVE Online being driven through spreadsheets and menus, the cinematic camera is actually really nice. If you leave the camera idle for too long, or when you come out of space stations or complete jumps or whatever, it'll kind of do this very slow zoom that goes into like a big sweeping shot that circles your ship. And I don't know if there's like some kind of algorithm that tries to like focus it on like planets or moons or whatever, but it always seems to like frame your ship perfectly for a screenshot with a sun or a planet or a space station in the background. Or like if you're in a little ship, it'll kind of set it up where you're behind a large ship if there's one close to you, or in front of, I guess. It's really nice the way they've set it up. Because, I'll be sitting there, I was sitting there in the menus looking at stuff, and then I realized, like, oh, my camera's panning around, and I'd close the menu and be like, whoa, this looks really good. It might be one of those things that gets old after a while, but EVE does have lots of options, and you can tweak the camera settings, but I haven't messed with any of that. I left it alone, because for now, at least, I like it. They've made some UI changes, which I don't really like for the most part, but, again, you can customize a lot of the way that your UI looks, so I'll just have to figure out a new flow that works for me. I really like the way they've changed the skill system now. It's a lot more expanded than it used to be, which might be frustrating for some people, but it immediately gives you a lot more details about what the skills do and what their prerequisites are and how long it's actually going to take you to train to a certain place. Because before you'd have to figure that out on your own, but now it's like you can just check a skill and it's like it'll pop up a little side menu. And it's like you have to train these skills and it'll take this long to train these skills at your current implant or with your current implants and stuff like that. So that's really handy. It just makes character planning easier. And I'm sure there's more, but I didn't play it but for 2 or 3 hours the other night.
Just long enough to rip people off.
Yeah, just long enough to run a huge... Well, I almost said scam, but I didn't really scan them. I just stole
It
all
was
their
a
stuff.
spur-of-the-moment thing. That's the thing. It's the equivalent of walking by an armored car with the doors open and nobody's there.
Actually, that's pretty much what happened, yeah.
And you just look inside and you see all the money. It's like, look around. No one's on the street.
Guess I'll steal this bag of money.
And then you take about 5 steps and the ink pack explodes.
Well, that didn't happen to me last night. We'll see what happens when I log back on in a couple of weeks. I'm sure I'll have bounties on my characters. But basically, I'll just go somewhere and get myself killed on purpose. And someone can collect those bounties, and then nobody will be hunting for me except for maybe the main corp people. But if they come attack me,
in other words,
they'll
you're
get
going
their
to bring
stuff
your
blown up.
free-to-play character and kill yourself.
I've done that before. I've collected several bounties that people have placed on me by doing that.
That seems rather counterproductive, actually.
The bounty system really needs some work.
Maybe they should have it where only one character can't collect bounties multiple times. Or there has to be some sort of cooldown or something.
Yeah, what I would do is one of my characters would get a bounty on it for some reason. So, I mean, both of my characters are in the same corporation. I just turned Friendly Fire on for the corporation and bring my other ship out and blow up the character that had the bounty on it, his ship. And I mean, I get something really cheap, so I wouldn't lose any money. And the pod would pop out, and then I'd collect the bounty, because you don't have to actually kill the person to collect the bounty. You just blow their stuff up. At least that's how it worked. They might have changed it, but it's great. People would put bounties on me because, for whatever reason, I did get into a lot of chat. I talked a lot of shit, basically. I get into chat arguments.
Shit? Nah.
And they'd place a bounty on me. It's like, well, I thanks for the money, dumbass. Because nobody really hunts for bounties in high sec, which is where I spend most of my time. Because the police force will come and murder your ass.
Mm-hmm.
So the bounties have got to be pretty high to make money on them. But they don't do that in a corporation. You turn your Friendly Fire on and enable corporate PvP, and the cops are like, all right, you guys work it out amongst yourselves.
The cops are just standing there eating their donuts.
Floating in their space pods, eating donuts. So yeah, that was my EVE experience for the week. I don't know.
So in other words, you're a colossal dick. Got it.
Yeah. That's why I said, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Spanking time.
Okay. So let's move on to our first topic, which is going to be the segment that you recorded with Kyle.
Yeah.
So strap in, ladies and gentlemen. This is the longest segment we've ever had that didn't turn into the full podcast. It's about an hour. So
yeah,
there you
it
go.
edited down to 62 minutes.
Well, 62 minutes is about an hour.
I was giving more detailed timestamps in case people wanted to skip.
Okay. Fair play. All right, here's more rage and some Kyle.
Hello, and welcome to a special segment of the VGL podcast where I've captured that one guy, the chocoliest of audibles, Kyle.
The MACR predicted. Sorry, I need to be in English. Hello, and I'm broadcasting from the middle of Winter Storm Clay. I'm here to basically do an AMA for legal shit and video games because I've left off a lot out of my audio letters. So, fun times.
Yeah, and I can't believe you actually support the Weather Channel naming fucking winter storms.
Well, I don't, because technically it's not a winter storm that we're having right now. Well, here's where we get to the local weather thing. Basically, what we have in Michigan, especially on the West Coast where I live, is what's called lake effect snow, and that generally doesn't come across in storms, but more does what's called banding, where the snow forms just offshore and then dumps out when it hits land. So that's what we've got going on. It's not so much a winter storm as the lake is just like, nah, you don't need to have clean roads. So, anyways, this is definitely a legal segment, I guess.
Yeah, this is something that really couldn't be covered all that well in an audio letter, and because of the holidays and your schedule is filled up and very inflexible, Jared's schedule is full up and unflexible, and me, I have no life, so I'm flexible and can record whenever the fuck I want. Here we are.
You know, Rage, I'm not sure flexible has ever been a word that has been used to describe you in the past.
Very true. Well, at least not without breaking some bones.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, that would be an internal structure failure, I would suppose. At least that's what the boys down in engineering would call it. Anywho, moving on. So, basically, I contacted Rage a couple of days ago with the idea of, let's just do an AMA and any sort of questions about video games and the current federal laws that are in place right now. Just like, how do they interact? How do they not work well with each other? That sort of thing. So,
and
the first
just how behind the times everything is.
Pretty much, yeah. And we're going to be getting into some fun stuff, including but not limited to math.
I wasn't aware there was a test.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. It's not a test. I'll just explain some stuff.
Yeah, shit, I think I'm going to have to go get some more coffee.
No caffeine, Rage. No, that's the first part of your name. It leads to the second part of your name. Hold on now. But yeah, 6 minutes in. All seriousness, I guess, do you want to talk about this China law first?
Yeah, this popped up just before we started recording, and it kind of really ties into everything, doesn't it? Really well.
Yeah, it took my number 3 point and made it my number 1 point. Which is, for those of you who are not aware of what we're talking about, in case this, I guess, doesn't make huge news, basically a new law in China that's going to be enacted in the late spring is demanding that companies that do loot box systems for video games in China release the digital odds so that players know exactly what the percentages are of getting a particular item from a loot box. Now, that is a step in the right direction, I feel, for the loot box system because, okay, imagine this. Imagine you go to the casino and you sit down at a table and you start playing poker. Now, a poker game plays off of one 52-card deck. So basically, the odds of any particular hand are 52 factorial minus 52 factorial minus 51 factorial, all the way down because each card that gets taken out affects the odds. And essentially, well, 52 factorial is a huge number. Like, it's crazy. Vsauce does a video on it. It's amazing. But there are actual physical odds keeping this game, I guess, fair, quote unquote.
Well,
like,
the house
your chances
always
of a royal
wins,
flush
in the end.
Well, the house only has to get the house only has to get you to 0 once. You're never getting the house to 0. So basically, your chances of a royal flush are always the same across all of the deals, assuming they're blind deals. So I'm talking something in the neighborhood of 5-card draw rather than Texas Hold'em, because there's some other stuff involved there. Your actual odds of getting a royal flush are, I think, right up about on par with getting struck by lightning while scoring the winning touchdown at the Super Bowl. If my math is correct. But the reason that I'm comparing this is because there's also video poker, and don't play video poker machines for this exact reason. There's no guarantee that the odds will remain consistent. For example, because you're bound by a physical medium of cards, in the physical poker game, you can't really doctor that too much without doctoring what's in the deck. But because you can't see all of the odds and numbers and calculations going on, say, a video poker machine, much like loot boxes, you don't know exactly how rare anything actually is. For sake of example, let's say that the actual rarity of a item in a loot crate should be 0.001%, just based on how rare they want to make it. Well, let's say that that's not working, and they want to encourage people to do these loot crates. So they randomly assign that to be a little bit more prevalent in the loot crate, so that when people get it, it's like, oh shit, this really rare item. And then they drop it back down past what the likelihood was initially. So I think I said 0.001%.
Yeah.
They could drop that as low as 0.00000000001%, which is a huge downgrade. So it's kind of like the whole how random it is versus how random it feels thing that I was talking about with the procedural generation problem with No Man's Sky. But this has actual money implications versus just shitty marketing implications.
Yeah. Oh, the big thing that China is doing, where they're making game devs report these numbers, is that there's really no way of knowing outside of just either doing some data mining or buying a shit ton of these boxes and opening them and recording the odds. Otherwise. So that's where this really is going to change things.
Absolutely. And it's going to make loot boxes, I don't necessarily want to say more customer friendly, but it is going to
It's a step in the right direction, that's for sure.
Right. It's going to create what's called a symmetry of information. Because what we have right now is an asymmetry of information, which, by the way, big companies love asymmetry of information.
Yeah, they love to have the consumer be ill-informed. Just look how pre-orders work.
Absolutely, and I believe the quote is, everything is worth what somebody will pay for it. And this gets into a lot of things about, I'll just pick on a game at random.
Oh boy, here we go.
Rage, hand me my bat. No Man's Sky.
Okay, here's the bottle of Elmer's glue.
All right, let's beat the shit out of this thing.
Hey, to be fair, the horse did twitch and update a couple times. As a matter of fact, there's been another update since we last recorded, so...
Well, now I'm just imagining it as macaroni art used from
you gotta admit that we've had a lot more fun with No Man's Sky just talking about it than I think we would ever had playing it. Or at least the version that we got.
The release version, yes, and I do believe that what you guys were talking about last week with it potentially doing better as an early access game.
It is an early access game. It's early access in everything except name.
Right, and I completely agree with that. Whereas if they had just come out and said, okay, you guys have been waiting for this for a while. This isn't the full release product. We're going to sell it at a bit of a discount, and the people who paid full price on the pre-order are stupid. Sorry, no, my bad.
It was a mistake.
Yeah. But anyways, so when I was talking about the procedural generation on that game, what I was talking about is it was never that impressive to me, because when you have a computer, you can literally set the odds to whatever you want. In fact, this goes back to the whole iTunes problem with this, where the shuffle, and in this case the random generation, and in this case the odds on the crate, didn't feel random, even though they were, because humans have a knack of making patterns out of patterns that aren't there, because I guess pattern recognition was something that our early ancestors thought was a good idea. But
well, the caveman that determines, okay, the herds come every so often, tends to eat a lot more often.
Yeah, and then we get into agriculture and herding, but that's not why we're here. I'm here because we are here to drink your beer and steal your rum at the point of gun.
Oh, so you're a Viking that went back in time in order to... Oh, sorry, a pirate that went back in time to fight Vikings and to stop the abomination that is Swedish fish Oreos.
Those exist?
Yes.
God damn, they took two awesome things and made them horrible. Anyways, sorry, my whole point with this is that's asymmetry of information, where the company knows what the actual odds are and can tweak them to market demands, versus keeping it at a static odd while letting the player know what their actual odds are. For sake of example, let's use that Buffalo Wild Wings promotion.
I thought it was
that
Buffalo
talking
Wild
about.
Things.
Yeah, I've stopped giving a shit about giving them promotion. Plus, I thought that would be kind of a fun way to, phrase it. So basically, they don't tell you the odds on what the bonus bucks are, and the bonus buck is actually just a little gift card that activates 4 hours after you pay your bill and get the $25. Now, because you're paying for the $25 gift card, it's not gambling, but it is a lottery. So essentially, I couldn't figure out what the odds were on that, but I tried to do some math, and I think I came up with a pretty good guess as to what the odds would be. So you could get values of 5, 10, 15, 25, 50, and 100. Now, obviously, they're not going to give away more 100s than they do 5s, otherwise they would lose money on this proposition. So what I guessed was the $5 one was probably the most common. The $10 one was half as common as that. The 15 was half as common as that, and so on and so forth until you get to 1 in 64. We'll get the 50 and 100. Now that is probably being super generous with it, but that means on average, Buffalo Wild Wings per $25 purchase would make $13 on that, simply because that's what the averages of these prices come out to, and it encourages people to spend more money at Buffalo Wild.
Well, that's also assuming one thing, that you always get something in the lottery. Is there a chance that you could get nothing?
No, there's not. It's always $5.
I wasn't sure about that, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I asked too, because I thought it was a little bit sketchy when my waitress was like, "Hey, do you want to gamble?" I'm like, this seems a little bit suspicious.
And then they broke out the blackjack and hookers.
Yeah. I was there with Melanie. It was very awkward that they brought out male hookers for some reason. I was not amused. But yeah, so this sort of symmetry of information would definitely help the loot crate system, but so too would basically uncoupling it from physical currency. Now, that would be very hard to do if the things inside the box are worth physical currency, but I completely agree with what you were saying last week about the Overwatch model of combined with the receipt model that I proposed.
Yeah.
And basically, by doing that, you're not having a value loss. And that's the big thing that gambling laws will go after, is value loss. So let's say, for sake of example, I wanted to oh, Rage, I got this really awesome site I got to send you. I just found it. It's CSGO betting, but it's awesome. What you do is you put in your skin, and it trades you another skin. And then all of the skins go into a lottery, and essentially, whoever wins that lottery wins all the skins that were used as payment. Now, technically, that wouldn't be gambling because you got something in return before the gambling took place. So,
yeah, but you only win something if you actually own that fucking site.
Editing the odds now. But yeah, so like obfuscating your gambling by uncoupling it from actual currency and creating a non-negative value proposition as a guarantee, that's actually a really big step to skirting around gambling laws. Like if when you played pachinko over in Japan, you paid $3 for a Kit Kat bar that cost 50 cents. Well, you paid for the Kit Kat bar, and then when you get the other candy bar to go around the corner for your actual payment, that would be, oh, you just won another candy bar. And that would be a lot harder to take down than what they have right now, which is pay, oh, you won a candy bar from this, go around the corner, get your money, and leave.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting how the pachinko system works over there. Technically, it's not gambling because of how they have everything set up. But if you're in the know, you're able to get your money out of it. If you don't know, it's it's like you just said. You're essentially winning prizes at the pachinko, and then there's another shop very nearby that takes those prizes and gives you your money.
Right, and that would be a good way for Valve to get around the gambling charges that the state of Washington is bringing against it by, like I said, uncoupling the gambling bit with the direct currency bit. Now, if there was an internal currency...
Make it essentially where you're buying a premium currency and that premium currency is used. Sort of the free-to-play model where you're buying the fun bucks, whatever you're calling it in that particular game. and
I
that is
would
used.
have called them sucker bucks, but all right.
Well, fun bucks and massive sarcasm quotes, because I really hate games that do the premium currency and then that premium currency is used in something else, because then you have to sit down and do all the math to figure out, okay, how much am I actually paying here?
Right. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit because, that was inevitable. But there's a game I'm playing right now, Pocket Planes. I've just fiddled around with it.
And somewhere Jared is arcing up, like, somebody's talking about a game I played.
Yeah. Jared. I'm looking to start a VGL airline. If you're still playing that game, we need to come up with a name for that for the flight crew stuff, because I feel like that would be fun. But here's how it works. You can pay for the premium currency, but you have the standard like free to play model on it, where you get a little bit out of level up, and I guess that is the standard model right there, where they
pretty much.
But you can also earn it in game. It's a little bit more rare, but if you're willing to like take somebody at a loss for in-game currency, you can actually get these premium currencies, and they're common enough that I have not sunk any actual money into this game. And I have something in the neighborhood of, I think I've spent something in the neighborhood of the equivalent of about $50. Not like in-game bucks, but like actual cash money bucks. Just from like the free ones that I earn, which is good. Like having it on a kind of open rarity scale, that works, which would also be a way for Valve to skirt the gambling charges. Which is kind of what I said earlier in the whole argue that it's a currency, because currencies are inherently subject to laws that products are not. So, like, it's complicated, and the United States legal system is definitely way behind the times. Especially
it's just one of those things where the law hasn't caught up, and it's the Wild West. So companies are trying a lot of different things, just seeing really what customers will put up with, to be perfectly honest.
Well, they're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, whether from skirting a legal solution to how much bullshit will people eat before they punch you in the face.
Yeah, just look what Valve is doing to CSGO. Or have you seen some of the stuff that's going on over there where, let's see, they're doing they have the skins on all the guns, the knives, which are just ludicrous in some of the values there, or the rarities that inflate the value on a digital good. And then you have, just in the last 6 months, they've made it so that sprays in the game you have a chance to get them out of the crates, and they're limited use, but you can get them on level up. But the thing is that the level up ones are all black and white, while the full color ones are only from the crates.
Yeah, that sounds scummy as hell, but...
Yeah, and they just released also skins for gloves, so you could get cosmetic gloves now. It's just, Valve is
when did this become Barbie Funhouse?
Yeah. Valve is treating CSGO like a free-to-play game, and it's a $15 game. I'm just looking at this thinking, okay, when is CSGO going free-to-play? Because that's about the only thing left.
Well, number one, have you seen...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, number one, and this ties into the whole artificial rarity thing. Have you seen that video of a guy who got this, like, crazy rare knife thing, and he was so excited that he actually shit himself? It's pretty fucking funny to watch.
No, but I used to be a TF2 player, as you know, and I was in a Highlander group, and I was playing when they started doing the Australian frying pans, which what that is essentially a golden frying pan. Yeah. It's a melee weapon, and that if you hit someone, it turns, instead of making them ragdoll, it turns them into a golden statue. And there's only a handful of weapons that do that. And those frying pans were going for thousands of dollars. Particularly the first couple went for, I want to say like 5,000 plus.
Jesus. That's more than I make in a month.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous for a digital frying pan.
Well, that's also what happens when you have a non-physical product assigned a price, which has its own issues, and I guess we can get into that right now if you want.
Well, that's the thing. It's not even assigning a price to this. This is what the market is demanding. It's there's only a handful released at a time. This is essentially the rarest item that is able to be dropped. There are rare items that are no longer available.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the rarest item that, at least at the time, that was able to be dropped. So the first few went for thousands and thousands of dollars, and I think it's still several $100. But it's also still a very rare item. And also to get it, you have to put in, I want to say like $5 or $6 just to be able to even get a chance, just because of the way they have the drop system going. It's in the essentially the horde mode, where you have to put in money to be able to play it, and it's like $1 for each round, and you have to do, I think it's 6 or 8 rounds, if I recall correctly, in order to get a drop. And the drop is a chance for the melee weapon. There's a chance for other things, and of course, you rarely get back what you're putting in. And it's supposed to, I realize it's what you're paying for is the fun there, and the prize is supposed to be a bonus, but people don't treat it like that.
Right. And when I said assigning a price, I didn't necessarily mean Valve assigning a price. I'm talking about supply and demand.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were going with that on the market value, or just Valve doing something. Because Valve has done some things that really are questionable, especially with CS:GO, but TF2 as well.
I was going to dive into the whole idea of assigning prices to digital goods, especially in an environment like the loot crate system, is kind of asinine, simply because there is no physical supply to be depleted, and all of the rarity is completely manufactured and artificial, which leads to big problems because
it's not even just artificial, it fluctuates, because, the one thing I can think of is that Valve during Halloween, when they put in special effects on their hats in TF2, they also doubled the drop chance of those special hats.
Right.
So, and there's no way of knowing, okay, they doubled the chance. What was the chance originally? Was it 1%? Was it 0.1%?
Was it a billionth of a percent? Who knows? And that's the thing, especially with these supplies and drop rates that aren't published. There's no way to actually know how many of these things there are in the world without some sort of aggregate site taking all of this data. And realistically, if I were Valve, I would shut that shit down immediately, because, as I was saying earlier, asymmetry of information is always beneficial to large corporations. But what I'm getting into is this. What you were talking about with that gold-ass frying pan. Yeah, there were only a few in the world, and realistically, it doesn't cost Valve any more to actually produce these things. It increases the amount of loot boxes and raids that they were selling. I use raid in air quotes. I've played TF2. I know what's up. But it increased the amount of money that they were making, but they were allowing the market of the people to set their own prices on these things. And by watching that, they could say, okay, let's not make these things common enough that people will just be able to buy them from anywhere. Let's keep them at a fairly good and, more importantly, publicly secret drop rate. That way we can artificially restrict the supply. And this is, for lack of a better term, a very monopolistic practice, and I understand that Valve's not a monopoly yet. I got that.
Well, they are when it comes to the supply of these items.
Exactly, and that's the problem. If you take a look historically at any of the monopolies, especially around the era of the barons, right before the progressive era in this country, let's say about 1880 up to about 1910, you start seeing these people who would both jack the price up on their products just because they could, and you couldn't go anywhere else to get them. See Standard Oil, which eventually got dissolved by some trust busting. But also, they were able to control the supply. So if people started getting a bit uppity about having to pay, and I'll use Standard Oil as an example, if people started getting uppity about how much they were having to pay, well, all of a sudden, all Standard Oil had to do was just pull back production in that area, and suddenly the price goes up a lot more simply because you're both dealing with monopolistic practices and an actual scarcity of resources. Now, the difference between that and what Valve could do is Valve doesn't actually make anything physical that could have that done to it, which means a lot of the trust busting laws that were set up in this country to prevent monopolies don't actually apply here because they're not actually making a physical good, and quote unquote, they don't control all of the means of production because nothing is being produced. However, if you take a look at this from not like a asshole lawyer standpoint, you're looking at something where they not only control the means of production and the means of distribution, they also control the entire environment around these digital products, which is a huge problem for consumer friendliness for reasons that should be pretty apparent.
Yeah, it's very easy for Valve just to hit the keys and make something, and, well, there you go. It doesn't really matter what they do, really.
Yeah, to quote the great Mike Shinoda, it doesn't even matter how hard you try. To basically say this, like, let's say that Valve came out, and let's pick a game almost at random, CSGO, with, okay, I'm going to pull a Metro 2033, and you can get shiny ammunition for your gun, but you only get one mag of it. So what they could do is just type, and make it super rare. Well, all of a sudden, these loot crates have become much more valuable without actually having any value added, just because of a perceived increase in value due to a new product that we don't know how rare it is. And that is a big problem from a consumer friendliness standpoint. But from a business standpoint, it makes perfect sense, because Valve isn't actually saying, okay, these new bullets are worth a penny a round. They're saying, okay, these new bullets, they're pretty rare. They're only in these boxes. Do with that what you will.
Yeah, and Valve sometimes even goes one further, where items will be only in one particular loot crate, and there may be half a dozen loot crates currently dropping. So that increases the rarity even more, without really increasing the rarity in that particular loot box, because you're looking, okay, you come up with a loot box, well, you have let's say a 1 in 6 chance of getting the loot box that even has the shiny bullets in it. And then the shiny bullets could be a 1% chance in that.
Right, and so that's when you start getting nesting statistics and odds, which is always a sure sign of somebody trying to screw you over while still technically giving you the chance to win whatever it is. Another thing that I'm reminded of is a game that I used to be really, really into called Payday 2.
Uh-oh.
It was fucking awesome when I first started playing it. In fact, I had a crew in college. We called ourselves PBJ. It was
oh boy,
funny. Does not stand what you think it does, but
well, I'm assuming something rude.
Pooter be juicin'.
So that's what the kids are calling it these days.
I don't know. We were pretty drunk when we came up with that, but so what ended up happening was, it used to just be a really fun game where the dev, Overkill Software, would, release some DLC, like, okay, here's some mission packs. But the way that they went about the DLC originally was pretty cool, in that only one player, the host, needed the DLC. So let's say that you were playing with a bunch of your college friends, and only one of us needed to buy the DLC. Well, that made us much more willing to buy different DLCs for, like $10 or what have you. So I would buy,
or even just have one guy getting it all and having him be host all the time,
and that's actually what we ended up doing. Yeah,
chipping in a couple bucks to send them the DLC.
Well, I usually got paid back in pizza, but college was fun.
Well, same basic idea.
Yeah, and that's the idea, because you're going to guarantee be able to sell the DLC, and while you may not be selling all of the DLC, it makes your DLC much more valuable by having it be slightly less exclusive. Now you take a look at what they've become, because 505 Studios is a shitlord when it comes to a publisher. Now, what they've started doing is they've introduced a pseudo loot crate system. See, in Payday 2, originally
Well,
what
didn't
you
they also
had,
remove it eventually once they kind of got the boot?
yeah. But at the
But the
same
damage is
time,
already done.
damage is already done.
Well, I just wanted to clear the air right there, and make sure that people knew about that. Continue.
Okay, so I go back every so often and I try to play it. Now, what they have at the end of each mission is a random thing that you could get. And you could only get these in-game. There was no real way to cheese the system. You just had to do a lot of heists in order to get these unlocks. And they were cool drops like mods for your guns, masks, mask patterns, mask colorations. So stuff that was all like basically cosmetic except for the guns. And some of the guns, or it's not even the guns, just the mods, because the guns you would unlock at levels, I think. It's been a while since I played. But the last time I went in, there was this thing called the safe and drill system. And basically,
yeah, I remember hearing about this.
yeah, this pissed me off to no end because basically what they did, and I would be amazed if these odds weren't, manipulated based on the amount of time that you played. Since the safe and drill system dropped, basically, think of the safes as loot crates. Now, here's the problem with it. When you get a safe, you can't open it until you get a matching drill. And then once you get the matching drill, you can open the safe, and inside the safe is some sort of like, oh my god, it's a red, white, and blue pattern for your gun.
America.
We're CSGO as well. Yeah, all right.
Valve really has caused some cancer in free-to-play games. And yes, I realize Payday 2 isn't a free-to-play game, but it's still the same basic idea.
Well, it went from being a really awesome experience that had a multiplayer focus to basically, I guess they were trying to make it a bit more MMO-y, which is really a bizarre choice. But,
Well, the Payday 2 one, sorry to cut you off there, was particularly cancerous just because it was also power. Some of the skins gave a bonus, if I recall correctly.
I'm not sure about that because once I saw that they had a loot crate system, I was immediately out. I said, you know what? I had my fun with this game. I'm okay if I don't play it again.
I'm pretty sure that some of the skins had some sort of bonus to it. I'll go look for that real quick.
Okay, while you do that, I'll just explain what the big problem was. These safes, they at the time were about a $5 value, and the drills, which I'm assuming were a much rarer drop, were about a $12 value, and you could buy them directly from 505 Studios and Overkill Games. And the problem with this is it's part of what's called the I can't remember the name of it. Let's make up a fun name for it. The freemium market mindset assault. So let's say that you're playing a game.
Yep, they offer stat boosts.
Okay, now that's straight up dumb. Because
I just wanted to go double check that.
Yeah, because now you're looking at a pay to not even win. You're looking at a pay to make the. That's so weird because you're actually not playing against each other. So I don't know why you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. I'm not sure how much you would consider this a bonus. The example that they give is the M308.
Yeah, okay.
Before the black market update, the stability on it is a 36. With the skin, it's a +4, bringing up to a 40. And then with the skin and mods, it also adds a damage in -8 concealment, but still giving that 4 bonus to stability.
That's actually kind of ridiculous because the M308 is basically the M14 in real life. And what it'll do is it'll fire a 308 range, down range, and it is one of the not sniper rifles in the game. And essentially, if you're good with this, you can take down some of the more heavily armored people in the game very quickly. Now, making this a more attractive option is cool, but here's the thing. The 308 is not a good rifle in the game. It's just not. And
well, that's just the example that they're giving. I'm sure that there was other skins for better guns out there that
Sure.
Made them even stronger. But that's the example given.
Sure, and I understand that. But my point is just this. It's like, well, it's really going to artificially like influence what guns you pick, because honestly,
Yeah, if you have that skin, you want to use it.
right, because you don't have the bonus for the gun that you really need for the mission, which is a problem. But like I was saying, it's the freemium assault on your mind, because you already have this thing and you're thinking, oh, well, if I don't open it, it's not going to be worth anything, because
Yeah.
all of the goodies inside are still locked inside unless I pay a little bit more to open them up. And it's...
Or you just throw it on the Steam Marketplace and let some other sucker have at it.
Basically. And it's just such a shitty move, because it's preying on the perceived value loss of not opening the crate, because you're thinking, okay, whatever's in here is actually in here. No, it's not. The statistics are actually, the dice are rolled once you open it. It does not matter which safe you have, unlike in real life with like a cup and ball game or something, where the ball is actually under one of the cups. Digital odds, man, they can be tweaked, which is me sounding very
here's the
tinfoil
thing
hatty.
is that people assume, they make this assumption that the odds are already rolled. They're used to dealing with a physical world.
Right.
They think that, using your poker example, the next card is always going to be the next card.
Mm-hmm.
But in a digital game, the next card isn't determined until it's chosen. So depending on when you hit the next card, or even if you hit the next card, there could be any card there.
I'll give you an example from real life that I know, and we'll go back to poker, I guess, because that seems to be a really good analogy. One of my coworkers' brothers actually went to a casino around here recently, and the story goes that, and by the way, this is a guy who did not need to win any more money. He's very well off. The story goes that he lost a shit ton of money at slots. And what happened was he just, on the way out, eyeballed some of the video poker machines. And according to my coworker's brother, let's call the coworker's brother Bob. I don't actually know his name. He sat down at a video poker machine, which I guess had been there was no one at any of these lines of video poker machines. So he sits down, puts in, I think, like 25 cents on it, ends up getting a royal flush, which paid out $8,000.
Wow.
Now, you might be asking, why did the casino do that? Like, the odds of him actually doing that are
astronomical,
possible, but incredibly unlikely, especially on something where the casino can manipulate the odds. So why did the casino allow him to win $8,000?
Because $1,000 to them isn't much, but it's enough to hook them.
Well, he walked away after that. So what actually happened, according to Bob, was once he left, people saw that he won $8,000, because he won $8,000. He made a lot of fucking noise.
Yeah.
So
and I imagine the machine made it even more.
Yes. So other people came over to try to play video poker, because they're thinking, oh,
that machine is hot.
Video poker pays out. Yes. So by doing that, they were able to increase the total amount of consumption for the product, in this case, video poker. Which is why I don't really trust digital odds, because if you start seeing a market slump and somebody wins something amazing, it's like, oh, geez, I just got this box with like 1,000 rare items in it. It was great. And people are like, oh, that shit exists. I need to start buying these boxes so that I can get that too. And with the market loss, and this applies less to, let's say, a loot crate, with the market loss from giving away these super rare items, you will make that up by other people thinking that, oh, this guy did it, so I can do it too. It's the whole fallacy of whenever somebody has like something really lucky happen to them, like, I'm going to go out and buy a lottery ticket. And I'm thinking, no. Luck does not work like that.
Yeah, really.
You've used your luck for today. What are you doing?
Well, you're talking about the manipulation of odds. Blizzard just had a bit of issue with their latest expansion, Streets of Gadgetstan, where the card packs were not giving the proper odds of getting cards. And they had to, they didn't have to, but they gave away a bunch of card packs to try to make up for it. What happened was that a set of cards in the expansion, it's technically a neutral card, but instead of being available to everyone, it's available to 3 of the non-classes, and there's 3 sets of them. So there's one set that's for one set of 3, one for the second set, and one for the third. Okay. And there's different groups. But because they didn't program the odds correctly, those 3 sets of cards were showing up a lot more often because it was calculating instead of a block of 3 for each one, essentially one of the 3 blocks. It was going each class a chance, and it was coming out 3 times as often.
Right, so that would increase your odds by 3, and on a common card, that's going to flood the market.
Yeah, exactly. Now, granted, there isn't the market there. There's no way to trade those cards. It's a collectible card game, not a trading card game, which is a very important distinction because there's no market there to trade. Right. Your extra cards get disenchanted down to dust, which then is used to make other cards. But because all these cards, at least I'm pretty sure that they're all are very, common cards. It dropped the perceived value of those packs just because there's a bigger chance of getting those 3 class commons, or those 3 class neutrals, I guess I should say. Right.
Well, and I guess I'm reminded in real life, like I would, and this is probably going to come back and bite me in the arse at some point in the future. I understand that before I say it. I am not interested at all in any sort of digital card game where the odds can be manipulated by the company as far as what cards I could possibly get in the pack. That having been said, I play a lot of Magic in real life. Magic the Gathering, fun game. Always up for a game if you're close to me, which nobody is. So,
hey, Bells is.
She is, but she is getting a little bit tired of me stomping face a lot. So, well, then
I can't imagine why there's no one around you that wants to play.
Well, no. Okay, so on Wednesday nights I go out, and there's a reason I don't do the Wednesday night thing very often, because that's card night, and I'll go over to Kalamazoo or up to Holland, or people come here, and we'll get together, have some beers, and play some Magic the Gathering. It's like a nerdy poker night. It's amazing. So there is a set, and I don't remember exactly what the name is because I get these things confused. I think... Okay, it's the last set in the Theros block. I'm going to call it Journey into Nyx because I'm 99% sure that's what it is. That Wizards of the Coast, the people who made it, did something pretty cool. I think 1 in every million packs has, instead of the normal split of 15 cards between common, uncommon, rare, and mythic, they filled it entirely, because Theros was the Greek god sort of set. They filled it entirely with gods, and they called these things god packs. So instead of, like I said, all the normal cards, you would get 15 of these, or you would get 1 of each of the gods of Theros, which in the meta was amazing. If you pulled 1 of these, it would be really cool.
Yeah, now, but I mentioned that there's only a handful of those packs out in the wild.
There really is, and you don't know about that until you open. So there's no real way to tell, like, if somebody pulled these things from the God packs, because they still have their old set logo on them, so it's not like you could say, oh, that was definitely pulled from this pack. But it increased the sales of these packs on pre-release just tenfold, from what I understand, just because people
it's the equivalent of a golden ticket.
Exactly. And that I would
that's actually a good analogy. The golden tickets from the Willy Wonka movies.
Yeah, I remember the golden tickets from Field of Dreams. It was great. Macaulay Culkin was great in that movie. I might not be movie savvy. All joking aside, yes, I understand that. But I'm more willing to trust that than I am some company who makes a digital card game.
Well, there's no way for them to go in and say, tweak the odds after the packs are already shipped. That's the big thing.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's why I'm a little bit wary, especially buying digital goods that have a random chance associated with it. But that having been said, that's not really the only thing that digital goods run up against. And I guess this segues nicely into my next point. So let me just hop on my 2-wheeled moped thing and just scooter around the room. I'm going to point.
And go right off the cliff.
Yeah, just go right off the cliff. I'm going to point this Segway out until we've driven it to the bottom of a canyon. So,
easy there, Jared.
Well, if I'm Jared, I need to start hitting my non-existent mic stand.
Sprawling.
Oh, that was such a lovely sound effect. But What was I on about? Right. Okay. So the reason that digital goods are not very well protected under the law has to do mostly with the fact of leasing versus owning. And while when you go onto Steam, you're not buying the game, you're buying the license to the game so that you can access it on Valve servers. Now, let's say, for sake of example, Valve imploded tomorrow. God, I hope that does not happen. I have a fairly large library.
You
If
have a
Valve,
fairly large library.
okay, well, it's not about size. God damn it! It's about how
It's
you
how you
use
use
it.
it.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm using it for a YouTube channel, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, my point is just this. If Valve went away tomorrow, it would be very, very hard for them to basically not screw everybody over. And they're not trying to. I'm not saying that they are. But if, let's say, Valve's company stock just imploded, they had to close their doors, they can't keep those servers up. And even given Gaben's promise of, okay, you'll be able to download all of the games DRM free, I understand that. That's cool. But let's say, for sake of example, you have just a shit ton of games. There's no real way that you might be able to store those without essentially turning your house into a giant hard drive. And
Well, there's
that's
an
one
idea.
I'll help you out with that, sure. Um, and that's basically some of the problem with digital goods is that there's no real way to ensure consumer protection if a company is no longer able to remain viable and continue providing access to the product.
Well, let's pick on a company that has done this just recently, Desura. Desura imploded pretty much overnight, and they have been bought out by another company, and they're talking about bringing it back online. And they're talking also about the possibility that old accounts will still have their games. And there's really nothing legally you could do because you don't technically own those games on Desura. You're owning the license, and you've licensed the game from the old company that owned Desura.
Right, and that's where this gets a little bit dicey legally because what you paid for, in your mind, was the expectation to have access to the game and be able to play it and access it basically whenever you wanted. What you actually bought was a license with, let's call them old Desura, to have access to the servers to be able to create essentially a digital copy of the game that calls home to the server and says, hey, okay, is this guy good to play this? Yeah, okay, yep, okay, cool, got it, done. And that's what you bought. So if either the company or the server goes away, now the server can be replaced, obviously, people upgrade servers all the time.
Yeah.
But if the server goes away and the company goes away and a new company scoops them up, let's call them New Desura, God bless you, the new company does not necessarily have to honor the old accounts in what is legally known as, no, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, that's the real problem with this. And, well, it's not just even games going away, but games being changed. Let's pick a game almost at random, taking my catchphrase back.
Okay.
GTA San Andreas.
All right.
The last patch that happened to it, they removed about a dozen different songs from it. When they essentially patched in 1080p support, but it kind of broke things there as well.
Right.
But because you're not owning that copy, you're owning the license, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Well, they can to you. I bought the CD back in college, so I still have all that music.
Yeah, well, true. I have the console version of it around here somewhere, and I'm sure that there's a way to rip the music off there. Or, there's fan-made patches, which is just dropping the MP3s back into the folders. It's not that hard to do.
It's really not, especially with in the PC version, the ability to create.
But it's still the same idea where
you're right.
They have the right to do everything that they want to the game because they still own the game. You're just getting the license from it. Or games that just get pulled off Steam completely. Typically, it's that you're still able to access the game.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been a couple that's just gone completely off Steam and have been removed completely from libraries as well. it is a very rare thing to happen, but it has happened.
Yeah, like digital suicide. Figured I could.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that people wouldn't miss those games.
Oh, touche. But it also comes back to one thing that makes me sound incredibly morbid. It is the arrogance of companies to think that they will last forever. Nothing lasts forever. I mean, hell, the universe isn't even going to last forever. Eventually, there's going to be a heat death. But the fact of the matter is, if you take a look...
But since the universe isn't going to last forever, we shouldn't worry about global warming because, the sun will eventually just expand and consume the Earth anyway.
Okay, Gary Johnson, calm the fuck down. Yeah, I know who you're quoting. But the fact of the matter is, eventually this is going to become a problem as more and more companies will eventually default on their licensing agreements. And that is why the United States, in my case, and other people's countries in other cases, need to start thinking ahead on this. Because by the time that this becomes an issue, it will already be too late, and you will have a large loss of value. For example, let's pick a game almost at random. Stole it back. Yeah. All right.
Damn it.
Let's pick a game almost at random, just flaunting it in your face now. Civilization 6. I love that game. I'm probably going to rack up nearly 1,000 hours in that game because it's amazing to me. But if it were to go away, that's value lost for me, regardless of how much time I actually put into it, because I can no longer put more time into it. Which sounds like the sunk cost fallacy, but it's really not, simply because I wasn't done with that yet. That's like when a waiter comes around. It's like, can I put that in a box for you? Dude, you just brought this food out. Go fuck off.
It's more the waiter comes and takes your bowl of soup while you're eating it.
Waiter comes, sets a bowl of soup down. Yeah, you're done with that. Just picks it up and walks away. You're just sitting there with a spoon in your hand like, what the fuck just happened? But right, and so like I'm saying, in this country especially... The two-party system is set to be a good 2 decades behind the issues. They just are. And it's because of the inherent problems with a two-party system of
there's no incentive for them to tackle these issues.
Right, because they can just take these issues that they don't want to talk about and sweep them under the rug and just quote rhetoric. I know I sound like I'm getting very down on the government, but...
You are.
Yeah. I am a little bit. Personally, and this again is going to sound a little bit morbid, things need to be allowed to die. It's just the way things are. And I don't think either of the two parties right now, without the other one going away, will be able to really talk about any of these issues without the rise of another group of individuals who pose an actual quote-unquote political threat to them, that they would be able to...
There's nowhere near that right now in the United States.
That is correct, which is why I'm a little bit envious of a parliamentary system, but that's neither here nor there, and that's a conversation for another day, unless you want to get into it.
Well, we're already rolling up on an hour, so we probably want to have something for the rest of the show.
Okay, so a parliamentary system... Oh my god. I guess to wrap up this point, what I would love to see is either what you would call the Millennium Party or the Internet Party for people who...
Oh, just get the Pirate Party. Let's be done with it.
Yeah, and then we could have the Ninja Party as the other party in the two-party system. It'd be fucking great. Pirates versus Ninjas, God. But, I don't know. It's complicated. And
there needs to be incentive to pass consumer protection laws, and there really isn't right now.
Well, and the way it goes is the Republicans, by and large, and not all Republicans are like this, I understand that. The Republicans, by and large, they're a bit more business friendly, so they don't really want to burn bridges. And the Democrats, they have other issues to work on for social reform that don't necessarily include consumer protection laws, because they're looking to get even the most basic level of progressive thought into this country. So it's just one of those issues that neither side really wants to either acknowledge or deal with. And that's going to come back and bite people in the arse once people figure out that you can make mines out of arse. All right, sorry, that wasn't much of a good joke. That's going to come around and bite people in the arse once the shit starts hitting the fan, and that is a big problem. Let me put it this way. I think our leaders need to play more chess and less
checkers.
I was going to say less crossword puzzles,
well,
because that's the difference right now. They're filling in the problems that they know about, and it takes them a little while to reach the solution. And sometimes what they fill in isn't right, so they have to go back and change it. Versus chess, you have to think 3 or 4 moves ahead.
Well, I was going a very simple board game instead, where they're more reactionary than anything else.
Sure. That would also work. I don't know. Vote Bartosik 20 shit. When can I run? 12 years from now? 2028. Bartosik 2028.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think either of us would ever be able to get enough support because we're not in the pocket of big business.
Well, you're not. I work for a Fortune 400 company.
You just hack your company's website to support you.
Well, and in all seriousness, oh Christ, I guess we're going down this path. In all seriousness, probably the biggest problem I see in our system right now is the amount of lobbying that takes place. Simply because it pulls focus away from constituencies and towards being pro whatever is being lobbied to Congress people.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that we have this very public, very open form of what is essentially corruption, and that is a massive problem for people being actually invested in a representative government. That, the Electoral College, and just the amount of bloat that the government has right now is a massive problem. Not to mention, the government does things against its own best interest. For sake of example, for each dollar that you invest in tax return enforcement, you yield 6 back for the government. And yet, when the people start having concerns about the IRS has gotten a little bit too bloated and they're becoming inefficient, what do? Well, they cut the funding to that, which is not the right move. If this thing needs more money and it gets you money and you want to make it simpler, you do not cut their funding. That's not what it's fucking political.
Well, also bringing it back to lobbyists, the issues that have the lobbyists are usually the ones that have the most money because they can pay the lobbyist in order to draw attention to those issues.
Absolutely. And
so
even
that's part of the reason why you're not really going to see really strong consumer protection laws in this country unless a group makes it. A group of consumers makes a lobbyist group because there's no reason that a big business would want consumer protection laws.
Yeah. It's like, oh, your freezer caught on fire. That's weird. Sucks to be you, bro.
It's a feature. It defrosts the steaks automatically.
You wanted steak tonight, right? Anyways. Well, it smells like human steak. Anyways, but no.
Long pork.
Gross. In all seriousness, Blue Mountain oysters. In all seriousness, that is a big problem where the bar to entry for political influence is so high that the layperson can't really influence a decision unless they're, influential. I don't know. A representative democracy was definitely an easy way to do things even 100 years ago. But now with the advent of connectivity and technology, it would be a lot easier to pull people on things. And yes, I understand that opens up its own can of worms with security and hacking and all this other shit. That is a talk for another AMA. So what are you doing after this? I've got another 4 hours free.
I'll take it you want to wrap things up then. Looking at the time, it's probably a good idea.
Probably. I guess the one thing I do want to do before we wrap this up, if you will humor me,
oh boy.
is did start this off as an AMA, so I will open this up to you asking any sort of legal question about anything we've talked about or anything that we have failed to talk about.
All right. Do you want to have them send that to you directly on Twitter or send it into the show?
I would like. How about this? How about the next question of the week? So for the week after December 16th.
Yeah, that'll be the question of the week that goes out December 16th then. Because
Right.
I imagine this is going to be in the next podcast.
I would hope so.
Unless something absolutely major happens, Sean Murray's found dead with his head stuck up the asshole of a hooker somewhere.
Oh, you've graduated from Taint. I was about to give you shit about that.
Well, you dove in too far.
Oh, sure, why not? Yeah, and even then, I mean, people like longer podcasts, right?
Yeah. For some reason, I don't understand why. Really.
Hey, it gives me something to listen to while I'm, working for company.
Yeah, we get yelled at when we don't produce a 3-hour podcast.
You don't get yelled at from me. This is 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 minutes. I'll listen to it. I don't care.
But I guess send it into the show, and I'll make it the question of the week. What legal issues do you want to hear Kyle talk about? And I guess we'll have him back probably after New Year's, actually.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because you guys have the awards that you have to do, as well as just an incredibly tight schedule. My schedule tightens way up towards the end of the year, so...
Yeah, our schedule, the next episode is the last normal episode of the year, then we have the VGL Awards, and then the Game Club for Crimson Skies.
Okay. And I guess this would be a proper time to announce I'm throwing a New Year's Eve party. Come on over. Have fun finding me. In all seriousness, if you do manage to find me and you do manage to come over, I'll pour you a drink if you're of legal age. I don't care.
Yeah, but the problem is Groove doesn't have a choice but to show up.
Yeah, hold up. Let me put a couple more nails in on this crate. Jambalaya. Delicious.
But thanks for joining us, and I guess back to the semi-live portion of the podcast where Jared's wondering what the hell are we going to talk about next, because we already filled up most of the time.
Woohoo!
Thanks for joining us, Kyle.
There you go, Jared. You get to be a little lazier this week. All right, it's been fun. I'll see you later, Rage.
All right. Well, that was Rage and Kyle, which feels weird to say, the Rage part, because he's right here, but whatever.
Yeah, that kind of came up with... Well, Kyle was going to have some issues recording with us today, and this is the last normal episode, well, normal for us at least, until New Year's, because we have the VGL Awards next week, and then Game Club the week after.
Yeah.
So it was going to be, he had to be this week, and there was no way to get him on for Tuesday. And to be fair, I didn't ask you, but I also knew that your schedule was going to be very tight, and it was just really trying to get Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I'm not upset. I made a little joke at the beginning, but I don't care.
That, and I was a little vague on my wording of the email, so you ended up trying to edit what I already edited.
Yeah, I opened this single track audio file, and I'm like, did Kyle or Rage do something that was like an hour long? And I got to listening to it, and I was like, okay, so they're both in this. It sounds pretty good.
Did you open mine first or Kyle's? Because there was 2 emails, and I never took Kyle's out of the email.
No, I opened yours. I never touched Kyle's. I figured that they were related. So I just went straight to yours.
Aww.
But, yeah. So, good talk, guys. Good talk.
Yeah, have you listened to the entire thing? I know you ended up listening to 10 minutes trying to figure out if it needed editing or not.
I listened to the whole thing. I mean,
do you have any comments? You already know the question of the week as well, so. Well, for this week.
Yeah. No, I mean, you made a lot of the comments that I would have made as you guys were talking, and I don't really have much to add to anything, really. Plus,
right, well, we'll be having Kyle back probably in January with community questions and probably talking more law stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, he's supposed to be here next week for the VGL Awards, so you'll get to hear some more of him soon, hopefully. As long as nothing happens. We haven't
that sounds ominous.
We haven't officially locked that in yet. Both of them are like, yeah, we can do it. And we were like, great. But we haven't, like, made it, like, double-checked with them. Like, okay, is this for real? Like, are we good?
For realsies?
Yeah, for realsies. I guess you'll just have to find out next week.
I guess anything law-wise on the docket we're going to have to save for Kyle, or at least keep a copy of it.
Yeah.
Which we do have a few things, so speaking of which, let's keep moving on.
Well, this was This is one of our personal topics.
Yeah, which this may end up in the Franken episode if we end up going way, way, way too long, which we have been.
Yeah. So my question was, I thought of this a couple weeks ago when I was going over stuff for the VGL Awards, but I was thinking, how have we changed in a year of gaming podcasting? So that was kind of a vague question, but in my mind, I was thinking, like, how have we changed as gamers? How do we, like, have we changed the way that we see games or play games from talking about it so much every week? And, you know, have there been any other changes that we've observed in ourselves? Because you said that you were getting better at doing, like, your Sunday sampler and Let's Plays and stuff, just because you're getting used to talking a lot more, and it's been helping you. When you do stuff by yourself.
Not to say that I hadn't been practicing, well, essentially, talking to myself in general, but it's more just be able to string together thoughts and think a little bit more quicker on the fly. Granted, there are pauses. There are times I sit here and go, but they're a lot more infrequent compared to when I started doing YouTube. Well, actually about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
So there is that progression that I could see, and I really noticed it with the Sunday Sampler because it's not just me making comments on the gameplay, it's my thoughts overall on the game. And that's really reflecting of what we talk about in the very beginning of this when we talk about what we played for the week. Because I start to get into the more technical side of things while you talk more about your gameplay.
Yeah.
And that's essentially the audio version of the Sunday Sampler.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how we each are as well. Like, I mean, bad mechanics can absolutely ruin a game for me, but I'm much more about the experience. And you're very, like, detailed and technical. And not that the experience, you know, your gaming experience can't be ruined by, like, a terrible story or something like that, but, you know, you tend to do okay as long as the mechanics and the actual
gameplay is there.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, if this has got, like, one thing that really hooks me, you know, most of the rest of the game could probably be shit, and
you could probably overlook the technical aspects because of talking corn and maize, for example. Yeah,
talking corn is like, that's a big enough novelty that would probably make up for most of the bad things that you mentioned. And then the game has other good points, so I'd be fine, probably.
Well, the thing is that the talking corn in that game doesn't appear, at least all that often.
Well, poo.
I could think of, let's see, there's one really good section of it about an hour in where you really first meet them. You get a quick glimpse of them when you first start up the game, but it's one of those blink if you miss and you can miss it sections.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I'm trying to think, you meet the bad guy, Sentient Corn, probably about another 45 minutes later.
Yeah. I think for me, a change I've noticed in myself in the way that I play games over the past year is a shift in mindset. So before I started reviewing games a few years ago, I played games for achievements. Not necessarily like I got whatever gamer score, but like I would just play hardcore. You know, I wanted to beat everything on the hardest difficulty. I wanted to complete everything to 100%. And I mean, I did really like getting achievements, you know, on Xbox for gamer score and on Steam for my completion rate. But, you know, I was like, gotta beat everything. Gotta get it like 100% perfect. And then when I did reviews, I shifted to a very critical view of doing games. Like I was really like digging into them. And now I play games very intentionally, but it's hard to describe. I play games like very intentionally. Like I purposefully play every game like, okay, is this a good game? is it going to be something that'll provide conversation on the podcast? Is it something that I'm going to enjoy? But I don't care if I don't finish games anymore. I don't care if I don't beat a game on hard or, insane mode or whatever, And I don't care about achievements. There's a few games that I really like Transport Fever and Chain Fever for their achievement systems. But that's because those achievements are designed to challenge you.
Okay, well, I'm going to interrupt you here for one moment.
Sure.
There is one point in Portal 2's single player. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but make sure you have achievements turned on, you have your overlay turned on, and you'll know the moment.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say about it, because it is it's one of those moments. It's probably the moment for me in Portal 2. And unfortunately, it's also one of those things that only appear once unless you use a Steam hack to remove that achievement.
Okay. Well, I always have my overlay turned on, so it'll pop up. But anyways, so back to what I was saying, the achievements in Transport and Train Fever are designed to encourage you to try new things, and challenge your own personal limits to be better, and that really hits my, the part of me that's like maximum efficiency. But so the way that I play games now is very much just I want to enjoy them, and I want to be sure that they're good conversation topics. Because if they're not, then, why would I play them? Because, I run a podcast that talks about video games.
Yeah, for me, let's go all the way back to when I started my YouTube channel, because me starting my YouTube channel was partly be one of your share games and, talk about, games I enjoyed or were having fun with playing. But it was also a way for me to stick with a game and to see it to completion. Granted, not 100% completion, usually. But just getting through a game, because I have a bad habit of playing a game for a while and then stopping. Like, for example, I'm about 2/3 of the way through South Park: The Stick of Truth. And it's just, I'm at a point where I'm having to kind of redo a lot of things on my character, because I set up my character in such a way that I suddenly hit a bunch of resistances.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, going to take me some time to figure out how to play that game again. And if I was doing a YouTube series on it, I would have that motivation to continue playing.
Right.
But that kind of changed again when I came into doing the podcast, partly just to kind of do more variety, because honestly, the YouTube was just really what I was playing at the time. And that's why I originally went to 2 and then 3 series, was to kind of add more variety, because I was starting to feel a little bit of a burnout just playing one game at a time.
Right.
And also, while I usually try to keep my games varied, so you'll see me, if I'm doing a FPS on one series, I would avoid doing an FPS on the other series. I would try to make it as different as I could.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to add more variety, and that's partly why I'm adding games that I pick up and either play for a little bit, or games that I may be trying for the Sunday sampler, but don't really feel as motivated to play. See, Disoriented last time. And just trying to add a little bit more variety to what I'm playing and what I talk about.
Yeah.
So it's kind of mixing back in my pre-YouTube self, where I'm just picking up games and playing them for a bit.
Yeah. I've noticed. Another thing. I've always liked the type of games that I play a lot now. I've always liked those games, but they were always huge time investments to basically, be a completionist in. And I found myself really hardcore gravitating to those types of games in this past year. Factorio, Train Fever, Transport Fever, EVE Online, now Divinity, yeah. And even the way that I played Skyrim when we did that for Game Club. Those are some of the games that I've played the most this year. And they all kind of share this, make your own story, do your own thing, build up your own stuff. And I have burnt out on a couple of them after playing them for 150 hours. But I actually experience a lot less burnout now than I used to.
Well, you're also forced to play something new each month now. And, before it was every couple of weeks.
Yeah. So.
Speaking of which, have you gotten Crimson Skies working?
No, but it's not because, it's because I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
It's not because it's, broken. I need to do it. I've actually got it downloaded. Got the ISO downloaded. I just have to mount it and all that jazz, but I have not done that yet. But I also, another thing, I'm incredibly, well, I don't know if I'd say incredibly flamboyant, but I'm
really?
pretty out there. And I've always been that way, but something about the podcast makes me feel empowered to not even hold back at all ever.
Also, this is 100% Jared. Got it.
This is 100% Jared all the time. And I mean, it would come out in real life, usually when I was just hanging out with my friends or whatever, or just at home with Katie being weird or whatever. But generally in public, I would hold back, but I don't hold back anymore. I have no inhibitions. Unless Katie's with me and she's punching me. Stop it.
Or shooting you with
Shut
Nerf
up.
guns.
Do what?
Or shooting you with a Nerf gun.
Yeah, or that too. So.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the opposite. That I'm very reserved usually and very antisocial. So this is more pushing me out there.
Well, I didn't say I wasn't antisocial. I've said on here multiple times, this and the streams is, enough socializing for me to be happy. But, I mean, I am always this way when I'm with people, so. But that's been nice. It's been really nice. It's always good to have a place where you can just be yourself. And particularly with my job, I have to present a certain amount of calmness and stability. And not craziness, but even in counseling over the last year, I've become a lot more uninhibited. It's actually worked out really well for me. It helps to improve the relationship I have with my clients because they know that I'm being me. They know I'm being real. And that makes a huge difference in doing counseling with most people. I mean, some people are turned off by it, but that's okay. They get referred to someone else.
As someone that wears pants.
Yeah. In all seriousness, I do wear clothes most of the time.
Well, just remember for the VGL Awards, just a bow tie does not count as a tux.
Well, I mean, they do call it your birthday suit, so. I've learned a lot of skills while I've done this too. Before, I really had never edited audio before. I had done this stuff for Kerbalcast, but that was way different. The scale was a lot smaller. The equipment, I just didn't care. I would send in whatever quality and they could fix it if they wanted to or run it if they didn't want to fix it. But, I joke about being lazy, but I do a lot of work on the show. And I've learned a lot about editing.
Yeah, I know that you do a fair amount of work on the audio side. Yes, I know you leave a lot of stuff in as well. So,
yeah.
But for me, it's refined skills that I already had, but it's not really added anymore to my repertoire. I mean, even the editing that I did for this episode, it's just a little bit more than what I usually would do, or that I did, I guess I should say. It's a little disappointing to use the past tense on that for Kerbalcast.
Yeah.
Just cutting out a little bit here and there and doing truncate audio and, send it off.
Yeah. Yeah, we've really evolved out of that. We started off hugely referencing it. The only audience members that we had.
Yeah.
The only audience members we had came from Kerbalcast. And we've really branched out and created our own brand. That's definitely something that's changed this past year. We've really come into our own.
Yeah, I think I would have been really disappointed. Even more disappointed had we not the podcast before Kerbalcast, committed suicide.
Yeah.
Because we had a couple months overlap there.
Yeah. But, I mean, they were really slowing down during that couple months.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of times that, I would have recorded something, then Biff told me, well, we're now doing a show this week. Fuck.
Yeah. Do you know that we've almost caught them in episode numbers?
Well, here's the thing is that we're consistent on our episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, we should talk about this. Technically, this is the 52nd recording that we've done.
Yeah.
Well, the 52nd, not recording, but episode we're putting out, because that also includes the pilot episode, but also the Franken content as well. So technically, it's not the 52nd. We're still a couple off from that. But for the 52nd episode of VGL, that's the VGL Awards.
Right. Yeah, because our pilot episode was the Gaming Rageologist podcast, which sounded great at the time, but thinking about it, I'm so glad we did not stay with that.
A little cringy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which a couple months later, I thought of another name that's probably already taken.
What was it?
Binary Brain.
Binary,
but that sounds more like just a tech-oriented podcast than a gaming podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we do some tech stuff, but yeah. I'm doing a quick Google search.
See, I would be surprised if it's not taken.
I actually don't see it. I'd have to do some more detailed searching on podcast apps to double check. But at least from my Google search, I'm actually surprised
that's not taken.
There's probably some stuff pretty close to it, like maybe like Brainwave Podcast.
Well, here's the thing: is that nothing is completely unique anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
There are way too many people out there. There's way too many. Well, it's not even people out there. There's so many avenues that people could have a voice that they could put out their thoughts. There's so much noise that everything is a derivative of something else. I mean, even us, we're a derivative of Kerbal-Cast, which is a derivative of something else, and it goes on and on and on.
So, Binary Brainwave is a stock trading software.
Well, the only reason why I thought of it was that the show, our logo, the original prototype name was Binary Brain because of the binary and the logo. Right.
That makes sense. Oh, never mind. Here it is. Binary Brainwaves Podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Just had to dig a little bit deeper. I'm very happy with our podcast name, though.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Granted, we're very illogical at times.
Just like video game logic. Ding. Oh. Gonna get a little... oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, are we done here? Or?
Well, I have one last little thing, and maybe it'll be a little cringy, but I don't care.
Oh, no.
Over the last year, I've made a really good friend.
Aww.
And that's you. The only person in my life, and you can think of this as a good thing or a bad thing as you wish, but the only person in my life that I talk to and spend more time with than you is my wife. Well, I guess my wife and my kid. My wife and my kid.
Well, considering even just podcasting, just what we've put out there is getting close to a week worth of content now.
Yeah.
I actually tallied it up based on my YouTube playlist. As well, this episode will put us at 6.5 days.
Yeah. So if we do a week a year, if we can make it for 52 years, we'll have an entire year's worth of audio content. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
And that's assuming, of course, that we stick at about the 3-hour mark on our podcast, which, speaking of which, we're way over this week.
Oh, yeah, we're past that at this point.
And here I thought I was being nice and having a nice pre-recorded segment, and you'll be able to get in bed early.
I was so excited I was going to go to bed early, but no. I might wind up going to bed late at this point, but oh well.
Oh.
C'est la vie. Yeah, I think the biggest problem we have with going 52 years is that one of us is probably going to die.
Yeah, that seems really to be a slight problem.
Yeah, because you're in your mid-30s, and I'm in my mid to late 20s. So, I mean, I've got a little bit of a leg on you, and we're both fat, yeah. I've lost 20 pounds this year. I'm doing good. I had to go to a funeral tonight. Some friends that we have, no one personally connected to me, I guess, but some friends of ours had a loss in their family, so we went to the funeral to support them. And I was able to fit into pants that I haven't been able to wear in over a year. I was very excited. I mean, it was a tight fit. I wasn't a looker tonight, but I was like, these pants fit. Yay.
And you were just going around the entire funeral. Hey, I haven't worn these pants in a year.
Actually, I didn't mention it to anybody. That's not true. I mentioned them to people at the clinic today because I wore them there. I digress again. All right, let's wrap up this and head on over to Community Corner. Thankfully, that's short this week, given how long the rest of this episode is.
Hey, people like long episodes for some reason.
I'm tempted to release the whole thing. Like, we're going to hit 4 hours, maybe.
Well, I'm looking at my timer, and, well, granted, I did leave the timer running when I went to get a drink. We're at about 2 hours, 10 minutes on the timer, so that's 3 hours and some change.
Yep.
Yeah. Whew.
All right, let's move on. Let me double check the inbox before I just say this. Yep, we don't have any.
Well, to be fair, we had an hour of Kyle, and Kyle is the serial emailer to us, with a few others appearing now and then.
Yeah.
So if you want to be able to get on the podcast, videogamelogic@gmail.com. And we do accept text messages as well.
Yep. But we do have tweets and question of the week. Yep. So let's do that, Rage.
Yeah, where did my notes go? Did I accidentally close them? Yes, I did. Thankfully, I saved them. The question of the week was coming off of just the... where we were talking about 32% of the entire Steam library came from just this year.
Yeah.
So it was, are there too many games on Steam? And Chemist said, I've set my default Steam page to community, so I don't even see new releases. Groove. Or me, it's the library. I don't do much in the community section. And Chemist, I like to browse game announcements and friend screenshots. I run all my games with keyboard macros. Which, that's fancy.
Yeah.
And Groove, gotta catch them all. A lot of bullshit, though. And that's all we have for the question of the week this week.
Yeah. I don't... for me to answer the question, you can obviously answer too. I don't think there's too many games on Steam. Choice is always a good thing.
The problem is the search.
Right. They don't have a good way to comb through it. Or curate it, but we really shouldn't have that discussion again for another week or two.
I think the issue is not the number of games, it's how they present them, because games will cycle through the front page very quickly, and used to be that was the main advertising for a lot of these small indie games, but now they're being pushed off in under a day.
Yeah.
And they also redone it so that it's just popular new releases, and you're not even seeing all the new releases. To do that, you have to scroll all the way down and hit all new releases, and there you go. And then you're just hit with a glut of, well, let's see, just looking at this, I see 4 pieces of DLC for Rocksmith. So that's pushing some things down. Alone in the Dark 1 through 3 is on here, which that's, from the 90s.
Yeah.
So, even that, just going to all new releases doesn't help, because you're just getting pushed further and further back, and you're having to rely on the organic search on the discovery queue, and just all the tags working correctly and getting your recommendations out there. So that's the problem. And trust me, I know all about the bullshit, because remember, review copies.
Yeah.
Yeah, for every game I talk about on the Sunday Sampler, I have at least 3 more that I don't. And for some weeks, especially in the fall and late summer, I would get 10 plus games a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. It sounds like I'm showing off, which, okay, maybe a little, but it's also a barometer of just what's out there. If a small YouTuber like myself is able to get that many games, and a lot of them are kind of bullshit titles, it allows me to have a bit of a sample size.
Right.
So moving on to tweets.
Yep, let's move on to tweets.
Okay, Million Lights responding to me talking about Assassin's Creed being the free game for Uplay. Cool. Wait, they want you to use Uplay, right? No. Which, I don't think Uplay is that bad. It's trying to get some of the Uplay's games to work. Because I have, out of my library on Uplay, which all of them are either games I bought on Steam that also went on Uplay, or I have one that was a Uplay code that I knew about, or just free games. I have 2 games that I can think of off the top of my head that are literally broken for my machine.
Literally broken. Snapped in half broken.
Yeah. Well, for Assassin's Creed, it's definitely the FPS that's been snapped in half. And then Carl Lorez, trying to think of the subtitle of that one. It doesn't work unless I go into the BIOS and set my cores to 1. Because it doesn't like multi-core processors.
Well, that's stupid. I think you've talked about that before.
Yeah, I had a slight rant about that. Granted, it was essentially a free game. I got it with a gift card that was given to me from Newegg. Actually, I have no idea why they sent me that gift card to begin with, because they sent it to me like 2 years after I bought my computer parts from them.
Yeah.
So I nearly just skipped that email in general because I thought it was just an advertisement. It's like, well, no, wait, gift card. And it was like $10 of cash that I had a day to spend. So
yeah.
I just ended up buying. I went through their games because it was like a couple weeks before I was due to move. So I couldn't really order anything physical. Not that there's a lot they could get for $10 after shipping on Newegg, but there are some things that you could have gotten. But there would have been no time to get the shipping. So it's just going through, looking at the games and think, well, that looks decent enough. So I really can't complain about too much about it, because it was technically free, but it's one of those things that they really shouldn't be selling a game that doesn't work on a modern system, in my opinion. Because even GOG, whenever they're selling these ancient games, they've gone through and made them work through either DOSBox or something else.
Yeah.
So it's no hacking, no having to go into the BIOS and turn off processor cores. It's working out of the box. But then again, if Ubisoft did that, Uplay would be a fucking ghost town. Well, more so than it already is.
Yeah.
Because Ubisoft doesn't exactly do PC ports all that well. At least in general. They have been doing better lately. But I'm going to wait and see if that becomes something called a trend. Because right now, it seems more like a fluke. All right, so a little conversation between you and Kyle. So can we associate another word with Jared? Dainty.
Yeah, baby.
You are a pretty princess who is a sexy kitty.
I'm a sexy kitty.
Yeah, which there goes a word off the fucking word list. Okay, Chemist. Down to 550 unread podcast episodes. Time to subscribe to 3 new feeds. Now I'm up to 750. Guess I'm a true podcast addict. Ding.
But
and we have Chemist wrapping us up for the next couple of tweets as well. Chemist Bluetooth mouse, Bluetooth headset, and 2 wireless pads. No wires, mostly due to 3 USB ports in the notebook, but also desk space. I wonder if he also sits there and eats blueberries. And he said also, after 4 years, the right headset speaker dies while trying to extend it. Picking up a dropper move tomorrow. Excited for the hybrid connection, which he already got and was showing off. I'm not sure how well that headset goes. That's something I've thought about, was getting a wireless headset, but I'm not sure what happens if the connection starts to go to recorded audio. So that's just me being a little cautious there, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a wireless headset, so maybe you could tell me if any recording of audio hiccups happens.
Yeah, it does. Occasionally, and it might just be that my headset is old. I've had this headset for 7-ish years. But anyways, every once in a while it would just drop connection for 5-10 seconds. And, obviously it wouldn't record anything because it's not connected. I mean, that may have been something that's been fixed with improvements in Bluetooth technology and stuff over the last few years, but at least with my experience, it's not as good. I use it now just they're a really high quality, it's a really high quality headset from Logitech. So the sound quality is really high. So if I really need to listen to something, I'll use them, but I don't record with them anymore. I used to because it was all I had, but...
Yeah, I have a very cheap wired headset.
Yeah.
It has a cord that's 9 feet long.
Yeah.
So, but they're good enough quality that I have no problem with them.
Yeah.
And if I was a real audiophile, I'd probably go a little nuts because they are a little on the cheap side.
Yeah.
But it's serves my purpose, and really, I like having a headset over just headphones because if I'm talking with the good microphone, I have to be a certain distance away from it. Otherwise, it starts to have issues with audio quality or picking up a lot of roominess in the audio.
Yeah.
And also, it is a directional mic and not omnidirectional. So if I'm outside of its cone of listening, the audio volume just drops way down.
Yeah.
Which is by design. So I have to be... If I want to be able to relax, I need a headset or get like a gooseneck for my boom arm and reconfigure things. And the headset makes more sense.
Yeah. Does that wrap us up for the tweets?
Yeah. Yeah, that wraps us up for the tweets. And if you wish to join into the community corner, you could, like I said, email us at vglpodcast@gmail.com. We accept audio letters and text letters, even though we haven't had a text letter in ages, actually, have we?
No, it's been a long time.
Well, this is what happens when we pick up the remnants of the Kerwellcast community, is that everybody's used to sending in audio letters.
Yeah.
And you could also tweet us at VGL Podcast on Twitter. And, we also have the Steam community group as well, steamcommunity.com/groups/VGL Podcast, and a Discord channel, which is on our webpage, which you could easily find over at videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com. Have I missed any other links?
I don't think so. Okay, well, that means it's time for us to go talk about our Steam weekly picks. Rage, you go first.
Okay, well, I have one Steam and one Uplay because, why not? It's a freebie, and it needs to be in the show notes anyway. Company of Heroes is my Steam pick. A squad-based RTS set in World War II. A very, very good game. It's not as fast-paced as a lot of modern RTSs. It is a bit of an older one, and especially it's a lot slower paced than StarCraft, but because it's squad based, it's a lot easier to wrap your head around. But because it's also slower paced, they went on more the technical aspect of it. Yeah. So positioning plays a lot bigger role in it, that you could sit up behind walls and have cover there. Directional armor is huge on tanks. If you take shots from the side, you're risking damage to your treads, and also if you take damage from the back, you're risking damage to your engine, which could leave you stranded until an engineer crew gets out there, assuming that your tank isn't completely destroyed. Like I said, it is older, so I wouldn't go into this expecting a multiplayer community. There is still a bit of one, but because it's a small community, they are the diehards, and they will kick your ass. And the game, like I said, is very technical, so it does have a very high skill ceiling on it.
Yeah.
And it's not just killing the enemy base, which you can do, of course. There is some base building in it, but not nearly as much as something like StarCraft. It's more controlling control points and getting resources. So that's where the multiplayer is. The single-player campaign is absolutely amazing, with every faction having their own campaign. And actually, also really different play styles. The British, for example, relies more on a mobile base that moves around and sets up in different places.
Mm-hmm.
While the Americans are more straightforward. I'm trying to remember what the Germans' strength is. I believe it's the Blitzkrieg, very fast units and quick strikes. And there's also a modding community that adds in other factions, the Soviets, for example, which I haven't played that mod, so I can't tell you exactly what it adds. But the base game, which is, I would say, the best deal, and if you want to get your feet wet in this series, it's a good place to jump in, is $4.99. It's 75% off of its normal price of $19.99, which is a little expensive for how old it is, but and this has been in Humble Bundles quite a bit, so a lot of people have it.
Yeah.
And the complete pack, which has its 2 expansion packs, is also 75% off, bringing the price down to $9.24. And I would say the complete pack is well worth it. The expansions add a lot of gameplay, especially to the single player. You don't really need to worry too much about the multiplayer side of things. If you want to play multiplayer, I would suggest checking out Company of Heroes too, but I don't have the experience for it, so I can't really tell you how good or bad it is.
Yeah. I really like Company of Heroes. I believe I have Company of Heroes 2, but I've never played it. I think it came with a bundle I bought or something.
Yeah. There was a freebie giveaway of the multiplayer version of Company of Heroes, which I'm just trying to find. Company of Heroes 2 has about 6,000 people as their peak in the last 24 hours, while Company of Heroes has a peak in the last 24 hours of 180 people.
Yeah.
So the multiplayer scene is obviously going to be a lot more lively on the newer one, but if you haven't played this type of game before, I would say just play Company of Heroes and play the single player, because it does a really good job of challenging you and setting up interesting scenarios.
Yeah. Okay, well, my first game this week is American Truck Simulator. If you like Euro Truck Simulator, this is basically that, except in America, with American-style semi-trucks. I have not actually played this, but I have watched several Let's Plays Let's Play series from people that I really like. And I mean, it really is pretty much the same. There's been some improvements to graphics and some improvements to the AI of the other cars that drive around on the road. And there's been some extra little features added, just like a couple extra things you can do at gas stations and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's basically the same game. So...
Yeah, I've always heard people talk about whenever you compare Euro Truck and American Truck Simulator, they say, get the game that you're least familiar with the landscape. So if you're American, get Euro Truck. If you're European, or European and British now since they're separate, then get American Truck Simulator. That way you have a far less familiar landscape to drive through, because that's really the thing.
Yeah.
Gameplay-wise, they are very, very similar. I mean, how different can you make driving from point A to point B, dragging a trailer behind you?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few differences, but it's more the setting than anything else.
Still, it's a good game, and made by a great studio. It's not a super big discount. It's only 30% off at $13.99.
Well, it's also a very new game.
I was going to say, it just came out this year, so... Definitely worth your time. All right, what's your other game, Rach?
Okay, my other game, I'm going to mention Assassin's Creed 3 again, mostly just because it's free. And yes, I did have problems with the non-technical aspect, and I really didn't care about the intro. And I didn't play enough to try to get past the intro, but it is a freebie game, and I would feel remiss if I didn't throw it out there, even though I did tweet about it.
Yeah. As someone who's beaten Assassin's Creed 3, there's a lot of stuff in there. Assassin's Creed 3 really lays the groundwork for the rest of the Assassin's Creed series. And there's a lot of stuff in there that if you've played later Assassin's Creed games and never this one, even at free, it might not be worth your time. Because, I mean, this game starts a lot of stuff that's done much better in the later games. But if you're looking to round out the series, I mean, it's a good game. It's not particularly broken in the same way that the new ones are. I mean, Rage is having performance issues, and other people are as well. But it's not like, oh my god, I can see through that guy's face, or the water is flashing, it's going to give me a seizure.
There's a lot of... you could see where the problems from the later Assassin's Creeds are getting more and more complex are coming from, where it's all the little things that are glitching out in Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah. But, as someone who did not experience the problems that Rage did, because I played it on console at the time.
You have, until recently you had a NVIDIA build, so you wouldn't have had that problem anyway.
Yeah. So, it's a fun game. The story is, Assassin's Creed, so weird, and it's pretty incomprehensible, even if you know the rest of the series. But the different setting, the American setting is really interesting. The Revolutionary War, really interesting. And
I think once you get into it a bit more, it opens up a lot more. It was starting to open up when I got there. Oh, and I didn't even mention how somewhat cringeworthy they introduced the essentially the collection quest, where you bump into Benjamin Franklin. Yeah,
Benjamin Franklin, he's awesome.
It was just so cringeworthy. Yeah, if you happen to find these random pages, it's like you're doing this. You're giving me a fucking fetch quest to find random pages strewn across the map by Benjamin fucking Franklin.
It's all right though, because Benjamin Franklin,
Well, to be fair, Benjamin is fucking Franklin. I mean, he fucked everyone.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah, it was kind of cringeworthy, but at the same time, I think I was already... Well, I don't think. I was already in a bad mood dealing with the game. And as soon as I saw my frame rate just tank getting to Boston, it's like, okay, we're pretty much done here. Then Benjamin Franklin shows up and talks about a collection quest.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, my next game is Victory at Sea.
Boy, I really painted that in a good light.
Yep. Anyways, my next game is Victory at Sea. Quite similar to Battlefleet 2, which I mentioned, I believe, last week. I don't know, the last time we had Steam Weekly Deals was when I talked about Battlefleet 2. Similar game, World War II game, a lot of strategy elements in it. But the main difference between this and Battlefleet 2 is that this is more real-time strategy style, whereas Battlefleet 2 is turn-based. So it's got ship customization to a degree. I mean, you can't build your own ships or anything, but you can customize.
Not with that attitude.
You can customize the weapons on your ships and upgrade things like radars and change out aircraft squadrons on carriers and stuff like that. But anyways, it's got this interesting sort of leveling and nemesis system. So the main difference, the big main difference in the overworld maps is in Battlefleet 2, it's kind of Risk style with tiles that basically you move your fleet into, and if there's another fleet, you fight it and all that jazz. In Victory at Sea, it's just an overworld map, and you click and your fleet moves around, and there's different captains that are different levels based on the types of ships that they have, and you can get rivals, other captains that are like, oh, it is you again. That was racist. And they will specifically try.
I didn't realize the Japanese were that bad.
Oh, that's my uncle.
I mean, damn.
But anyways, sorry, go ahead.
I'm trying to remember. There was a really, really famous actor who did essentially yellowface, and it kind of followed him for the rest of his career. Now I'm going to have to go look for this. Hang on. Continue.
Okay. But anyways, so they will try and track you down on the map and fight you again because, they're upset that you beat them and you're now their rival. And it's got kind of an open interpretation to World War II. I'm not sure how far you can push the game, but I have gone past the actual time in history when World War II ended, and have still been fighting the Japanese in the Pacific. So I don't know how far you can actually go, but I mean, it just basically lets you roam around, and you start out as a fleet captain with only a few ships, and by the end of the game, you're an admiral and you're controlling a huge fleet of, carriers and battleships and all kinds of stuff. It's got a really large selections of ships as well. Lots of different classes from the 30s to the mid to late 40s by the time you finish the game.
It was Mickey Rooney doing Yellowface in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I remember the movie. I was blanking on the actor's name because I couldn't. There was no way I was going to remember the neighbor. But yeah, an extremely racist interpretation of Japanese in the 60s. Whew.
Yeah,
it reminded me of that like instantly. And if you want to cringe a little bit at just how stereotypical we depicted the Japanese, just take a look at those scenes. Whew.
Yeah. So this game,
or just listen to Jared.
Oh, that's my uncle. You want vegetable? You fried rice? Okay, I'm done being racist now. Normally the game
at
is
least for now.
Yeah, normally the game is is $25. It's 75% off at $6.25. Fun game. Now I'm gonna slightly derail because I mentioned building ships. If you want a naval game that has an incredible shipbuilding system, just get you an emulator, a PlayStation 2 emulator, and get Naval Ops Commander and Naval Ops Warship Gunner 2. Those games have full-fledged shipbuilding systems where you can place like all your guns and your engines. And it starts out, they encourage you to stick to traditional conventions, but by the end of the game, when you get to the sci-fi portion, it's like go crazy, and you can mount like 100 lasers on your ship. And
you may want to put that on the show notes so I could put in the show notes.
Yeah, I will do that. I mean, it's not on Steam. Like I said, you have to get a PS2 emulator or own a PS2, but it's those are two of the only games that I play on my PlayStation emulator whenever I play it. I usually play them once a year. I'll play them all the way through. They're great. The gameplay is awesome. The shipbuilding mechanics are awesome. The voice acting is cringeworthy. The stories are all... I mean, they're anime, basically. It's an anime game before anime games were popular. It's great. Love it.
Well, there's also, of course, gratuitous space battles.
Yeah. But
granted, it's more about it's mostly the ship. Well, I shouldn't say mostly. Well, they do have a campaign mode, but it's pretty much about shipbuilding, and then it turns into a screensaver as you watch the fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of sci-fi games that have great shipbuilding systems for spaceships, but as far as I know, there's no games like the Naval Ops series with how detailed you can get with your shipbuilding.
Yeah, probably the closest I could come with it is, I would say, gratuitous tank battles, but that's tanks and not ships. But it's outside the sci-fi genre.
Yeah, so I'll be sure to find something on those. At the very least, I'll give you Wikipedia links, but I'll actually try and find the ROMs. It shouldn't be hard. But, if sites have gone away or whatever, it might take a little bit of time to find them. But anyways, so that does it for our Steam Weekly Deals recommendations, which means it's time to move on to the portion of the podcast where I go first. Couple coming up on my YouTube channel this week. There's going to be, well, the e-video is already out. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. There's going to be Divinity. I've gotten all the way through episode 6. Well, from where we left off to episode 6. And I, just because of like the Christmas craziness, I didn't get to schedule anything last week. So all of that stuff is getting scheduled for this week. So
then you're going to release all the episodes and get ahead of me again.
I don't think so. I've still got the rest of the Portal 2 episodes to release as well, and they're all done and uploaded. I just didn't have time to schedule them earlier, otherwise I would have. But those will be coming out in some amounts over the next week or two. And that's really it for the YouTube channel. I haven't had time to sit down and do any reviews like I thought I was going to, just because we got into house projects and getting stuff ready for Christmas, so... I wouldn't expect one of those until after the new year. I mean, maybe if I get a chance. I'm not going to say that like I'm definitely not going to do it, but I would not be looking for it. But if you want to go find or follow me on YouTube, subscribe to me on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube, and you'll find me right there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I tweet about all the random things all the time, you can do so at JMA4707. You might be privy to tweets like, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I played EVE Online again."
Spanking time.
If you want to watch me stream games, well, that's going to come to a near screeching halt for the holiday season. But afterwards, if you go over to twitch.tv/jarthur4707, you will be able to subscribe to me and watch me stream games. Plus, if you want to be my friend on Steam, I accept all friend requests that I get. And just assume that you guys listen to the podcast. You can do so by sending your friend request to jarthur4707. I will accept it. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, but we, have been picking up new viewers or new listeners, I guess, and hopefully continue to pick up listeners. And
which is a little bit of a shock considering this episode.
But I am a therapist. If you ever need to talk about something, you don't know where to go or who to talk to, you don't feel like you have anybody in your life who can, or if you're just looking for a little help, somebody to point you in the right direction, please feel free to contact me. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I had actually 2 people talk to me this past week. Obviously no names or anything, but 2 people talked to me this past week and got some help, and that's just something that I do for you guys, because I love you. I love our little community here. I wanted to be a big community, but regardless of your size, I love you.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode you just listened to when you added them, the password for this week is Insidious.
Okay.
Insidious. I was inspired by our talk with the video games, with the how things have kind of gone downhill with AAAs.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good word.
Insidious is a good word. All right, what's coming up for you, Rage?
Well, I'm in mid-series on just about everything, so there's not a lot new to talk about. Space Marine is, I would say, coming into its last act, so I'm expecting it to end maybe by the New Year's. I'm not sure on that. If not, then it's going to be January. I'm going to replace it. I talked about possibly Shadow of Mordor. I'm not sure on that, though. I have, like I said, 2 games there that I'm thinking about. And I'm still going to enter the choosing and see if there's anything else that I want to play. Because, yeah, that's really the only series that is rotating around now. Because the other 2, RimWorld, it just resets. And I'm actually looking at a new series on RimWorld coming up. Mostly buying time for Alpha 16 on RimWorld, which is changing a lot in that game. So I'm really looking forward to playing Alpha 16. The upcoming series is likely to be the last series in even Alpha 15 and Alpha 14. I never did an Alpha 15 build because there was a couple of mods that just didn't update until very late. And at this point, it doesn't make sense to do one series in Alpha 15 and then build another new set of mods. So it's more just buying time to just get through Alpha 14 and wait for Alpha 16 to come out probably by the end of the year there.
Right.
And, of course, Divinity Original Sin is probably looking at, assuming that we don't get bored of the game or, hit a dead end, which is possible with these games because it is a CRPG, that we could get into a no-win scenario.
Yeah.
And have to go so far back that it doesn't make sense to, really continue the series, which is always a danger with these games, particularly when we're going in fairly blind. I mean, I do understand a bit of the mechanics, and you've been working on that as well.
Yeah.
But there's always the possibility that, we could hit something that just prevents us from continuing on. Sort of like how we got, or we could just get burnt out like we did in Terraria. So, I'm expecting that to last up until probably about June.
Right.
Because that is a very, very long game. And, of course, the podcast comes out on Fridays at noon on the channel, and the Sunday sampler is, as always, completely random on when it shows off, as you may have guessed by just what games I talk about on here.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about Sentient Corn this week. How much more random can I get, really?
I suppose we'll find out.
I think I know what I'm going to be playing this week, though. I usually try to keep things fairly fresh and also interesting games, like Sentient Corn. Maze, I guess I should use the proper name for it.
Yeah.
And I do have an interesting twist on a racing game that I'm taking a look at that I may be doing for this week. If not, then I'll at least talk about it on the podcast. If it's not that, though, you'll find out what it is on Sunday at noon for the Sunday Sampler. You can find that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube. Or if you wish to see me just tweet about random things, like me complaining that I can't believe that, I can believe that they added microtransactions to the remaster of Call of Duty. And that it's a little sad that it's hardly surprising. You can find that over at Gaming with CR. And I'm not streaming yet. I'm playing with the idea of it. I'm going to be waiting until I get a secondary monitor because it makes life a lot easier for streaming. So I'll talk about that possibly in the new year if I decide to do that. I may just not have the time because YouTube does eat up a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
Particularly when you're crazy like me and have 3 YouTube series going, plus, I should say 4 plus the podcast. And one of the series has double episodes. So I'm releasing 10 videos a week. Oh, and also on my YouTube channel, just remembered this past, actually it was probably last week, and I just didn't catch it until this week. I passed 15,000 views.
Nice.
Granted, a lot of people aren't sticking around, but I'm getting the views. So I do have that going for me, which is nice. And I think that wraps that up.
Alrighty then.
So, we're still throwing out big thanks to the Internet Archive, even though I have started switching us over to run off of Podbean. So the hosting is coming from there still, or from Podbean instead of the Internet Archive, even though you are uploading it there for the cheeky little monkeys.
Indeed. We've got 2 more episodes until we'll be done with that.
I guess you're just going to send me a Dropbox link.
Yep.
And then Kyle's going to be sitting there trying to hack your Dropbox.
Dropbox, yeah.
Which, if you set it up right, you could just set it so that it's very easy for him to do that. But it requires you to be nice.
Yeah, the question is, will I be nice?
Or if you wanted to be very nice, you could just share that folder with him.
I could do that. That would be incredibly nice.
Yeah, but you have been naughty lately.
I've been very naughty.
Spanking time.
Oh, yeah, baby.
But yeah, we have started the transition over to Podbean. I'm probably going to be rewriting our intro to the show notes because Podbean is a very, very different format and it just doesn't look as good. And I'm also going to be toying around with fonts a lot. Because the default font kind of sucks on Podbean. Oh, I need to try to make that prettier.
You can do it.
It's just sitting down and doing it. Let's see. And, well, like I mentioned before, you could reach us at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or random suggestions of, well, what Jared can steal next.
We'll see.
Or just tweet us over at VGL Podcast on Twitter. Our RSS feed can be found at videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com. At least for the time being, we will be transitioning to a Podbean RSS feed soon, which will mean that we'll be abandoning the site and have to rebuild things. And if you wish to help pay for that, which right now the donations are going to the Inner Archive as a thank you for supporting us for this past year.
Yep.
You could support us or indirectly the Inner Archive, but we will be taking this money back after the New Year's. Patreon.com/VGL Podcast. And I also forgot to mention that we do have the community on Steam, steamcommunity.com/group/VGL Podcast. And we do have a curator, which is hugely out of date and needs about probably 2 or 3 hours of sorting to get back up to date. Which will eventually be the master list, once again, of all our game recommendations and just general chatting of games. We are so far behind on that.
Yeah, we'll get there one day.
One day. Oh, and I think that brings us down to our intro and outro. Music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com.
And, as always, as this lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
You naughty, naughty boy.
Bye-bye?